Hey, are we ready? Okay, we have water. Hi, everyone. Does everybody have water? Do we have a quorum? Are we all
Yes, we do.
together? You're all there. Okay, we're going to get started once I move everything and turn off my cell phone.
Oh, good idea.
Cell phone off, okay. And I'm going to call to order the September 23rd, 2024 Commission for the Las Vegas Centennial Board Meeting. And Madam Clerk, are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we are.
Thank you, and may I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Chair Goodman,
Here?
Commissioner Bryan. Here. Commissioner Arnold, Commissioner Stodel,
Present.
Commissioner Brown,
Present.
Commissioner Coffin.
Here.
Commissioner Hilton, Commissioner Sinnock. Here. Commissioner Mowbray.
Here.
Commissioner Truesdale. Here. Commissioner Brandenburg.
Here.
Commissioner Creer. Here. Commissioner Mills. Commissioner Prado. Commissioner Diaz. Thank you, we do have a quorum.
Okay, and Commissioner Brandenburg, I heard you briefly on the phone. You are there, yes?
He was. Commissioner Brandenburg?
You're on mute if you can hear us, because I heard you. Okay, and Commissioner Mills, I had excused.
Right.
But everyone else, I don't know.
Commissioner Brown and Brandenburg are on the phone.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to our first public comment. During this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, give your name for the record, please. The amount of discussion as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. Please come forward to the microphone. Hearing and seeing, hi there, Mr. Buckley. Seeing none, we will move on to agenda item 4 for possible action to approve the final minutes by reference to the regular meeting of the July 22nd, 2024 meeting. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move, Madam
Thank you. There's a motion. All in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
There
Aye.
he is, and there she is. Great. Thank you, and motion carries. We'll go on to agenda item 5, report by City Las Vegas Finance Department staff regarding commission for the Las Vegas Centennial budget fiscal year 2024.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Kathy Nye for the record. I will be doing the presentation for the financial statements of the commission as of August 31st.
And could you introduce your partner in
Yes.
crime?
And I wanted to introduce Paul Breshnaham, and he's going to be assisting the commission with the financial aspects of the city, so,
Thank you.
the commission, so.
Welcome.
He's going to be taking over for me.
Well, she's been doing a great job. We know you will, too.
Thank
Did I
you.
understand, where did you say you are transferring to?
I will be going to Public Works.
Great. All right, you'll have a good time there, too, so please go ahead with your report.
All right, so as of August 31st, we had total revenues of $34,000, total expenditures of $190,000, resulting in a decrease in net assets of $156,000 and ending net assets of $6.3 million. And I wanted to mention we were not successful in getting the plates information this time, but we'll continue to ask the DMV for it.
Okay, and they'll be available. We can contact Dr. Seabrand and get that report when you have it. When do you expect to have that?
We're not sure. We've been emailing and trying to get in touch with somebody over there. The previous contact has not responded. We've tried the DMV records email, and that hasn't been successful either, so.
Madam Chair, who are we talking about, the commission? Who has been reluctant or not responsive to your request?
So I was working with a public information officer, but that person's email was kicked back.
Is that here in the city of Las Vegas we're
Oh,
talking?
no, it's with the state,
The state, okay.
Yeah.
But what agency? Help me out.
the DMV, Department of Motor
Department of
Vehicles.
Motor
For the
Vehicles.
license plates, so
Okay, for
we
the
have a
license plates.
comparison.
And they were unresponsive.
Correct.
I think we can change that.
Okay,
That just is outrageous. Thank you.
thank you.
And based on the Raiders' performance so far,
Especially last night, that was quite something.
just a quick question, Mayor.
Yes.
On, if I read this correctly, still along for the record, there's two at the top of the list, KCP and the Mob Museum documentary. There's no funds outstanding, all funds have been expended, or if I go to the far right, once the KCP still has 20,000 and Mob Museum has 27, or have all the funds been expended?
So we still have 20,000, correct, for the KCP, and then 27,000 remaining for the Mob Museum.
Do
So
we
the
have any-
initial grant was 236,000 for KCP, and the total amount that's been expended is 216. And then the Mob Museum, we had 292, and then we have expended 264 before this fiscal year.
Okay, and the Eldorado Days, that's a 2-year, 24, that covers 2-year period.
That's correct.
So that's, and the City of Las Vegas, 1970 to 2005, those are funds for the documentary, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so that's an outstanding. So do we have any sense, do we know if how long will these funds be in limbo? Do we have any ruling on, in other words, are they here a year from now, can't we just revert them back to the?
We usually wait for the final invoices. Dr. Seabrant might be able to get a little bit more insight. She's in contact with them.
Isn't this a 2024, 2025, June 30 budget?
So, Seabrant, for the record, we wait for the final invoices. If they haven't sent us the final invoices yet, we'll ping them again and ask them to resend them. And then if they say that there are no more invoices they need to send us, then yes, then this money goes back to the Centennial Commission Bank. And Kathy's going to have to explain the way that these columns are divided as far as what month it is, as far as what we have spent and what we have left.
But Dr. Seabrant, aren't these funds, even though they're sitting in our account, available on the fiscal year, the Centennial fiscal year budget, which would take it to June 30th of 2025 for use? They still should be allocated to the different entities, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Kathy and I, for the record, yes. So yes, we still have 20,000, for example, budgeted for this fiscal year for KCEP, and 27,000 for the Mob Museum.
So theoretically, they would have till June of next year.
Correct.
To spend the money.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Which to me
Madam
is
Mayor?
responsible. Yes, please, Commissioner
And
Truesdale.
I don't know if this has been answered before or not, but I'm curious. Do we do spot audits on any of these projects? Or do we just take invoices given?
Good question.
I think we do a thorough review of the services to make sure they coincide with what the grant agreement says, but we do not have somebody out there auditing their numbers, per se.
I just think it would be a good best practices, maybe, that on larger contributions, there just be a small post-project audit, just to make sure what funds we're giving out are making it where we all thought they were going. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong, don't get me, I'm just trying to be proactive in the world.
Well, and inspect what you expect if the dimes are being used appropriately. Mr. Lloyd, has there not been anything in Centennial these years that audits to make sure the specifics of the grant are followed?
We don't audit them.
Dr. Seabrand.
Seabrant for the record. All of the monies is in the finance office, so I don't know if they get audited for this or not. I honestly don't know, because for Centennial Commission, everything that has to do with all the numbers all goes to the finance office.
I'd just like to echo the Best Practice Act. I mean, we're not talking $5,000 or $10,000. We're talking $500, $600, $1 million. There needs to be some, even if it's random, some sort of, we need to do an audit on here, or maybe there's something that stands out that triggers something, but that should be part of our process. So I think we would need some advice on how we could move forward with that idea.
Well, I think that when we ask for grant payment, we ask for documentation such as invoices that they've paid those for services that they've incurred, or time charges for time cards or whatnot that they've incurred. So that's somewhat doing our due diligence to make sure that whatever's submitted for reimbursement, we have some type of documentation to show.
And Stephen, for the record, okay, I think I understand the question. We don't just give people money. I mean, they have to submit an invoice that explains line by line what they are charging us for. They have to, if they're paying a vendor or a consultant or whoever it is that they are paying, that consultant needs to give them a invoice with the charges. Then the person that organization we gave the grant to, then they have to submit all of that shows everything that was paid, everything that was charged. They send it to us, we go through in our office to make sure everything is appropriate. Then that gets sent to the finance office, they go through it to make sure everything's appropriate. Then it goes to accounts payable, and they go through and make sure everything's appropriate. And then that last step, accounts payable, if anything has been found from there to there, they will say, hey, this is incorrect, you need to fix it, or mostly by that time, it's been checked so many times that they pay the bill.
Because we are under the city, so it would, I would imagine, go through finally, now Susan Heitzley, who's our head of finance. But I think that's really important, and we should make sure that we have an independent look that guarantees, too, that it is going where it belongs. So good point.
So the question before you is, I think what Dr. Seabrand outlined is certainly the required practice before we stroke checks for 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever $1,000 it is. I don't know what the magic number is. But I also know how overworked that particular office is. Is there no process within the city of Las Vegas that we do audits on an outside group comes in and you particularly say, let's take a look at this one? Not that you've done anything bad in the past, but you were randomly selected because of. Do we do any audits of these things?
Not that I know of. I don't think we actually audit any of invoices that get submitted to the city, but I think we do a pretty good due diligence job in venting out, like to make sure that whoever is submitting an application for a grant, if they're for not for profit, if you know they file a 990, if they have those certain thresholds, filing requirements as far as getting audited themselves, that gives, I'm sure, us within the commission and the city confidence that they're somebody that we're willing to give money to for a grant.
Because the city is audited, and then there is an independent audit responsible to the council and mayor only that does independent auditing. But what would happen is through the city audit, that would be looked at, I believe, but we really should. Can you find out specifically what that is, Dr. Seabrand, and report to us next time? What are the best practices on auditing, as Commissioner Truesdale brought up? And I think we'd all want to know.
And there's also one other, and this is a challenging audit, for Dr. Seabrand. It is not a financial, we can all add up one and one, and this was to go to buying this particular thing. It cost that, here's the receipt, here's the invoice which we want. This commission has a legal responsibility, a Nevada state responsibility, that our focus, the money that is spent, has to be for the preservation, commemoration, and education for the city of Las Vegas for the first 100 years. That's the legal filter that we have to put through. And the challenge for Dr. Seabrand and her massive staff is how do you determine that? How do you, what is the audit of that particular thing? That's nothing for your office, but that's the challenge that she has to deal with. And I don't know how many you rejected because they dealt with something that's in the county, and we don't pay for the county. But that is something that we were told at the last meeting of the Centennial Commission, that it has to be the city of Las Vegas, nothing else, and it has to be for the first 100 years. So there's two sort of separate audits that need to go on. The mathematical one is relatively straightforward. If it adds up, it adds up at the invoice and so forth. But the other one is a challenge, and I'm going to be making a significant point on that as we go through, and forever how long I'm on this commission. It's the city of Las Vegas, uppercase C. It's not the generic Las Vegas Strip. It's the city, and it's the first 100 years. And if the proposals don't fit that, they're going to get a no vote from me. So we're way out of talk.
So, Seabrand, for the
I think
record,
this is important.
the finance has nothing to do with that.
That's right, exactly.
So-
I'm going to stop talking.
Your Honor, could I
All
ask
right,
one
thank you.
question?
Yes.
Refresh my memory, what is our annual revenue from the license plate sale? I ask that so we can appreciate some of these larger requests in some context. Is that 10% of what our revenue is projected, 5%, 20%? Help me out on that if you would, please.
We've been getting about $2 million in revenues annually.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're
If you'll
welcome.
follow up, and as you go forward on this, I'd make an appointment, if you would, with our CFO in the city, and just make sure that the answers are correct to what is audited if it's lost for some reason here. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thanks, and I wanted to thank everyone, including Dr. Seabrand and her.
Wonderful. Thanks, Kathy. Good luck. We'll see
Good
you
luck with your
around,
new
though.
assignment.
She'll have a good time. All right, we're on to Agenda Item 6, 240474 CLC1, discussion for possible action to approve a request for proposal process that will solicit bids from qualified production companies to produce all future documentary films. And do you want to speak to this, Dr. Seabrand?
Yes,
first?
thank you, Mayor. Seabrand, for the record. So this is in response to the commission having several discussions about how to fund documentary films. And there are two ways to do that, and that is either we hire somebody to complete the film for the commission, which was done with Boyd Productions. It was a contract. The contract is signed and approved, and then as they move forward making the movies, then we pay them. The second way is, which we've had a few of in the last couple of years, is a filmmaker comes to us asking for funding through a grant process, and then it moves forward as a grant, normal grant, with they complete the project, they submit their receipts to pay, and then we pay them. So throughout the past discussions, there was the idea that the commission wanted to have more control over the topics they would like to see in documentary films, as well as content control, and a work for hire. So a work for hire would be a contract like we did with Boyd Productions, and for those to have a contract signed, then we would put out a request for proposals it would go on where we put all of our grants on the GeoGov website, and then people can submit their proposals for whichever film the commission wants to produce, and then the commission can go over those proposals, and they can choose who they wish to sign a contract with, and then it would move forward, like I said, as we do the Boyd productions. And so the vote is, do we go to a RFP process only, or if you do not want to do that? So the vote is on if you wish to move forward with all future documentary films as an RFP process. And the RFP process is, of course, handled by us, so.
And the commission.
Well, I mean, the commission would review the proposals, yes.
Correct, and I think that was what we were having conversation on before, and there seemed to be, in Goodman here, appetite for that. So where did that motion emanate from? Was that from Commissioner Stoddall originally, or
For the work for hire,
on the RFP?
yeah, and
keep
Commissioner
control.
Helton had also mentioned it. I think Senator Bryan did as well.
I think we had a conversation. I don't know if we need to do more than have a
Well,
motion and vote on it.
There is, I was a bit confused with the process. And the process, it ends with the commission will review all submitted proposals and vote on which project they will fund. So
Well,
I'm not sure if I understand that. Are we going to vote on proposals today?
No.
Process.
Sorry, it's the process to get there. So the way, hypothetically, say that you want to make a documentary about Helen Stewart, then we would, well, I would write the scope of work with the input from the commission of what exactly it is you want to see a movie about. And then that proposal, that scope of work gets put out on it's a government website where anybody can go to see what government grants are available. And then we would target film producers and make sure that we send an email, said, make sure you read this RFP, and if you are interested, submit your proposal.
Gotcha. I'm with you on that. That's not where the confusion is. Today, the way I read it was there are two elements here. The first element is the process of getting an RFP, and then the second part is the vote on projects that we're going to fund.
In the future, this isn't present tense, this is future tense, to say that if this is the way the commission wants to move forward, then every new film would require this process.
So because I wrote up 4 proposals for today for us to vote on,
No, this is just to vote on the process.
then when would we vote on the topics?
We could, well, if this is the way the commission wants to move forward, then we can do that at the next meeting.
So the process would be, we would approve this process as one of the ways, not the only way?
Well, that's up to the commission, but you can always make an exception if this is the way you don't want to move forward.
So it's a process of control over the contents, as I understand it, and subject matter, that we want to have that privilege. As people come forward, look on the website, go to Dr. C. Brandt with a great idea that they're going to do the history of horses in Las Vegas, and they want to do a film. Do we want that as a subject matter? No, we don't. So that would be the feedback. Or the other way is just to go ahead and one by one. You have a process that requires an RFP, and we have the control. The commission controls all of it.
So the confusion clearly was on my part, because there are 6 accepted ways to fund documentaries, 6 accepted ways. And one of the ways is the work for hire. And I was suggesting simply that when we asked for the commission, and this is based in large part of what Commissioner Helton said, and part of the reason why we wanted strategic planning is that there would be more input from the commission. And so the idea that one of the things that I was proposing was that we have a work for hire option within our process. I was told before, by the city that that couldn't be done. In an email, I said, no, that can't be done. Well, of course it can be done. There are 6 accepted ways to do and fund documentaries. One of them is a work for hire. And the reason why I think we should do it that way is the commission then can, at a public meeting, discuss the potential topics. And 2 more important, we would maintain the copyright and all the raw footage, all of the stuff that is produced from that, so that the next generation would look back and have all of this preserved, all of this material preserved. So it's not just the production and education of a piece of our history now, it's for tomorrow. So I wanted to have a work for hire as one of the options that we had. This covers it, but I didn't want to eliminate all the other ways that documentaries can be funded and produced. Somebody could come to us with a great idea, and they would say, we would like to keep the copyright. Okay, well, here's the deal, but it's also got to be on Channel 2, and we want to put it on YouTube. So all that. So today, are we simply saying that the only way we're going to do documentaries is work for hire?
That is correct. And just to clarify, work for hire is a contract. And again, I know that this commission doesn't get down in the weeds with this, but the way that it is processed, the way it is managed, and the way it's handled administratively, they are 2 very different things. So if we are going to be hiring, if somebody comes in for a grant, and you'd rather do a work for hire, that means that that person cannot get the grant, but could we do a work for hire? That would require a different documentation and signatures, and so it would have to be obeyed to the next meeting. So it's dependent on, have to remember that the way we process this paperwork to get on our agenda legally is that we need the signatures of the applicant and the signature of the city attorney's office, and that's either a contract or a grant. And it's not feasible to make a contract and a grant for the same project and let them decide. It can be either or. Now, we can do the RFP process that says it can only be done this way, and I know we have something coming up here shortly, that the commission could decide to do it as a grant. But this conversation, I think, has been going this way for the last several meetings, so we just really need a decision of how the commission wants to move forward with funding documentary films, if they wish.
If we vote this down, can we still do work for hire?
Well, that is a contract, so we could, but then we would have to either put out an RFP, or we'd have to write an exceptional bidding letter that says this person, which I have to do every time for Boyd Productions, that's saying that this production company is the only one or the best one that can do this film because of X, Y, and Z.
So if we approve this, we have to put out an RFP. And if we don't approve this, we have to put out an RFP.
No. If you want to approve this process, then you would vote yes on this.
Right.
And then at the next meeting, we can bring your ideas back with what you've written up here, which you handed me, thank you, as far as which one of these documentary films do you want to fund. And the commission votes on that, and then whichever one is chosen, I take that, create an RFP, a scope of work, RFP, put that out on the grants website, and then people write their proposals. Those proposals come to the commission.
So we vote this down, and at the next meeting, I'd like to put these items on the agenda as a work for hire. We would then say, the commission would say, yes, Bob, we like these, no, we don't like these, but we like that one. And then we would have you go out and put out an RFP and we would get a contract and then go forward.
Correct.
Let me get some input from Commissioner Carrera down there who wanted to speak, and I'm not sure about Commissioners Brown and Brandenburg, if you want to speak also.
I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So it seems as though we're talking about 2 separate things. One is the process that happens now, where those production companies have a thought and an idea, and they are the creative and the directors behind it, and they come up with a concept and an idea, and then they come in front of this commission to seek funding to support their idea, to receive a grant. And the grant says, yes, we're going to fund it, give you $100,000 to go do this, congratulations. And then two, seems like we're talking about now, if the commission says, we want to find someone to create a documentary, to whatever, to talk about the history of Las Vegas from 1960 to 1962, we want this film, and then we are the ones that are looking to seek someone to do that. And then we would put out an RFP, which, and then production companies would respond to the RFP, we would review them, and then we would pick someone to execute on the concept that this board has asked them to do. And so it seems like it's two separate things. And it seems like that would happen now under the city concept, because we would do that because we issue RFPs for things that we want in general through our purchasing process. I don't know if we need this particular item because of the fact that if the commission did decide to do something and wanted to expend money for it, similar to what we would do if we were having the website redevelopment. We would bid it out, someone would respond, and we would say, you won the bid. So is that what I'm understanding? Or am I missing something? Because what you don't want to do too is that I think a lot of the great work that we've done has come from the creative people who've had a concept that bring to us.
Well, but there's one.
And we don't want to stifle that.
The big challenge, I agree with that, but the big challenge has been with the copyright.
Well, but that goes into, look, that can go into the grant. You could say, yes, if you want a grant from the Centennial Commission, we're going to give you $250,000, then we own the rights to it. You don't need this to do that. That's something that the commission would decide, that say all future whatever, and this is the stipulations according to that. If you don't abide by that, no problem. You just can't get this grant for $250,000 from the Centennial Commission.
And I
So
think
that can go into the contract that we submit with the grant.
Right, so to me, that there's two up. One, a work for hire, where we say, we'd like to do a documentary on 1960 to 62. Would you like to do it? And somebody says, yes, we'll do it, and we own it.
Well, if we ask someone to do it, we want to do a document, just exactly what you said,
Right.
based off of, the city manager has the ability to award contracts that don't have to be bidded at a certain level and for professional services. So that would go out accordingly. But if it's over a certain dollar amount, it would have to be bidded out, and then an RFP, then we would receive
Gotcha.
those back, and then the commission can decide what they want to do with it. So your version of work for hire, yes, to a certain extent, it can get just signed off by maybe the mayor or the city manager, but over a certain threshold, it would have to get RFP bidded out, right?
And I would think you'd be able to do it. I don't know why it's broken, because you have the flexibility for the great idea to come in, and it comes in and it says the subject and the presentation is spot on, and we all love it, and then we say, but part of the contract will be, we want the copyright on it. So why do we have to do this at all?
Well, Seaborn, for the record, we do that already. All our grants have in there that they must give a copy to the commission, which we then give to communications, who then play the movies as if they wish on KCLV Channel 2, as well as put it out on our YouTube channel. The issue is that I cannot do a grant if it's a work for hire. If it's a work for hire, it's a contract, not a grant. And
Well, and in that instance, if I may, Dr. Seabrandt, if it's a work for hire, doesn't there have to be an RFP issued? That's it. On any work for hire, we are obligated, maybe under the aegis of whatever our charter is, that there has to be an RFP issued, at which point, then it comes back to the commission for clarity in their decision. And maybe one of the conditions the commission wants is we want the copyright on this, and the person who's been on the RFP says no.
Hey,
well, that would be part of the RFP. Oh, sorry.
Mayor Seth Floyd, for the record, maybe it would help to, I think there might be a little bit of confusion about why this item's on the agenda at all. And the reason And this goes way back to when I was sitting in Val's seat when we were in the old city clerk's conference room. We got, all at one time, we had like 4 documentaries, I think, that were submitted all at one time. And this was before we had any discussion about doing work for hire. Boyd Productions wasn't in the picture yet. And the commission said, oh, okay, this is a lot for us to review all at one time. We want to think about an orderly way that we go about approving and reviewing documentary films. So we essentially put, I don't think it was an official moratorium, but we held off on any further documentaries for a little while, which culminated in the Decades documentaries that we ultimately got retained Boyd Production to do. What's happened since then is that there have been a couple, but not that many documentary requests, and we've heard from the commission some kind of different opinions on the control we want over the content, and also, as Commissioner Sodal mentioned, the copyright. And in fact, I think that's why we obeyed the item that you're going to see next, is because we were trying to figure out, are there some rules the commission would like to, or guidelines you'd like to give to staff so that we know how to respond to folks who reach out to us for documentaries? So with that background in mind, Commissioner Sodal, I think the answer to one of your earlier questions is we can always have both. I mean, we could not adopt this policy as a rule and just leave it where it was before, which is that you can always do an RFP if you have a topic or more than one, and we can go get someone, just like we did with Boyd Productions, and that contract will look a certain way. We have a standard form, I think, that we've evolved to. And then you could also accept the public requests for grant funding, and as Councilman Creer said, you could have those discussions each time about the copyright and what that's going to look like. So certainly you don't have to choose this option today. I think what we were trying to respond to, and I'm going to speak for myself here, maybe I was confused, was just responding to the commission's request to be more orderly about how we go about approving the monies for documentary films. But certainly you can leave yourself the flexibility to do RFPs and accept submissions from other groups as well.
So my last comment is that taking what Louise Helton was suggesting, that there be more input on projects from the Centennial Commission itself. And for me, there's lots of things that I think we need to preserve and educate and commemorate about the city of Las Vegas. My focus, quite frankly, has been the documentaries. And out of the ones we have done so far, the most popular ones appear to be the earliest history of our community. Millions of people are watching those. So that said, okay, this is an opportunity for us to move forward with the next phase of documentaries. The second part was the confusion over the copyrights. And with a work for hire, there is no confusion. The city owns the copyrights, and I would like to see that done because it creates a body of work that the next generation of mayors and city council and historic preservation officers and Centennial commissions and Channel 2 people and the Office of Information, they can look back and say, oh, we want to do a documentary about this. Look at all the material we have. And so I don't want to put the stifle on what the councilman is talking about. We should still accept ideas from the general public. But looking back, and the reason we did the moratorium, we had some awkward experiences. As a matter of fact, we don't have copies of some of those early documentaries that we funded. And we've had people that have had great ideas, but then they have no skills in producing a documentary and realize how hard it is to do it. It really takes a talent. It's not just taking your Apple phone and taking a picture and going in and getting AI to edit something for you. It takes what Boyd Production, what a professional organization did. And then the third point and last point is there's a squeeze here. You come to me, come to the Centennial Commission, say, I want to do this, and we like it, but you realize that we're going to put it on YouTube, and you as the producer say, okay, that documentary is produced, but then the producer, the company that did it, has all the raw footage, and they can do with that raw footage with what they want. That's the loophole that we need to clear up.
That's contractual, though.
Right, exactly.
And that's all, but the flexibility, I don't know why anybody wants to put us in a box, because we do have, as Commissioner Creer said, we have so many people that come to us, but we also have ideas. So the flexibility and to be open, I don't see the problem here. And if in fact somebody came in and part of the contract was, we want the copyright, well, they can turn right around, walk right back out the door, because I'm not going to give you the copyright. I'm going to keep it and I'm going to sell it to somebody else.
So I'll make a motion that we
Don't approve
don't
this.
approve this.
Yes.
Well,
Wait, more. Okay.
technically, I guess we could vote on it, and vote down, or we could withdraw without prejudice and take no action on it. You have two options.
That's better.
Yeah, I personally, I would recommend that we withdraw without prejudice and then take no action on it.
Great.
That'd be my humble suggestion. Maybe Seth can give me some other.
And let me hear from Commissioner Brown, Commissioner Brandenburg. Any comment on this?
And the city attorney.
I'm in favor of withdrawing it without prejudice because I don't think we need to lock ourselves in a box. And as long as the city owns the product, I'm in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brandenburg?
I concur.
Okay. And Mr.
Same
Steed?
reasons.
Yeah, let me suggest an alternate way to get where I think Commissioner Creer's talking about, because this is not an application by anybody. This was an agenda item put on by staff. So the concept of withdrawal or withdrawal
strike
without
it.
prejudice doesn't really fit. But what does fit is, if you don't want to take a motion to approve or deny, is to take a motion to strike it.
Strike it,
Oh,
yeah.
good
I
idea.
think strike it.
So moved.
Okay. Okay, so Commissioner, I'm going to let Commissioner Creer do it since he's gotten us that far.
Thank you. I make a motion to strike agenda item number 6.
Okay, and we'll have Senator Bryan, Commissioner Bryan seconds that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries.
And can we
Thank
put
you very much.
on the next agenda for the Centennial Commission, ideas from the commission for documentary?
Hopefully, the ideas come all the time, but we can add a special. Dr. Seabrandt, we want all the ideas. Hopefully, they forthcome with rapidity and consistency. Okay, let's go to,
Leave your passport here in town, so you can't.
all right, agenda item 7, 240321 CLC1, abeyance item, discussion for possible action regarding approval of grant request for $294,250 by Selection Culture Productions for the costs, associated with the production of a historical documentary film highlighting the history of famous African-American architect Paul Revere Williams and his work and achievements in Las Vegas, and authorizing the president to execute the grant agreement as approved by the city attorney. All awards. Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you? Can you guys hear me? Because I'm kind of
Yes.
tall. Okay. Right on. First, I'm going to make this so easy for you. This is 100% a commission project. Copyright's all yours.
And if you'll give your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. For the record, my name is Emmett Gates. I run Selection Culture Productions, a Nevada-based film company. I am a lifelong resident of Las Vegas, and the history of Las Vegas is kind of my thing, like most of you here. As Selection Culture Productions, we challenge the traditional architecture of documentaries. We try to make them interesting for young people as well as the whole family. Every member of our crew is an artist, be it a visual artist, be it musical or whatever. Everybody leads by their passion, including the advisors and the historians that we have on this project. I'm sorry, am I supposed to be controlling the pages on this thing?
Do you have a clicker?
Right there, to your right.
Wait.
Clicker to your right.
Clicker to your right?
Oh, here. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm looking at this thing.
You're in
Okay.
charge.
I can't see where we are.
It should be on your screen right there.
Oh, There we go. Okay, I got it. Okay, I'm so sorry. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so again, the Selection Culture Productions. Past Centennial grants, we did a film in 2023. We were awarded a grant from the commission to produce a documentary about the history of the historic West Side. We did that successfully. And is also showing at the Sundance Film Festival. People are still hitting us up asking when they can see it. I believe that's going to be on the YouTube channel for the city here pretty soon. So what this film is about, with the help of the Centennial Commission, Selection Culture Productions will produce a 70 to 90-minute documentary film detailing the life and architectural achievements of Paul Revere Williams, with a specific focus on his works here in Las Vegas. There's no shortage of documentary films about Mr. Williams. What will make this different is we are focusing on Las Vegas and the works he did here. Now, since I was here last time, I spoke to you guys and you made some great suggestions. So that gave me some time to kind of reevaluate the original plan. And so while our objective is to give audiences a complete look into the life and accomplishments of Mr. Williams, this film will focus on how the city of Las Vegas has continued to preserve his works and legacy. The Visitor Center at the Neon Museum, the Nevada Preservation Home and History Tour, and the architectural segments of Duck Duck Shed will be highlights of this film. So basically, the first quarter of the film will kind of fill the audience in on who this guy was, why he's so important. The second quarter will focus on just those specific works in Las Vegas, and the second half will focus on how this city continues to preserve that legacy and kind of show a lot of the works of the commission itself in preserving and honoring his legacy. Bringing buildings back to life. In our last film, we used CGI technology to kind of build these structures that are no longer with us, to show the audience in hyper-realistic form what they look like at their height. As you can see, we have the Moulin Rouge there, as well as the Carver House, two buildings that are no longer with us. And we intend to do the same thing with Mr. Williams's work, just to kind of show what what these buildings would have looked like in their heyday. Many of them are gone. Soundtrack. Now, music and sound is very important to any film, especially to us here at Selection Culture Productions. We'd like to take the people back to that feeling of the time that we are covering. For the original score, we are bringing back Mr. Philip G. Henry. He did the original score for our last film. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He plays 40 instruments, specializes in jazz, rock, R&B, and reggae. So that's going to be fun. Concerns and challenges. One of the biggest challenges when creating historic documentaries is getting the history correct. Rumors and urban legends connected to famous people and events often take on a life of their own, and this does a great disservice to not only the viewers looking to learn, but to history itself. To remedy this, we will rely on only the accounts of official biographers, surviving family members or colleagues, as well as Las Vegas architecture and history professionals. We will also research newspapers and magazine articles of the time and any personal writings of Mr. Williams himself. Young people generally do not like to watch documentaries, and we got a remedy for that as well. It's important to us that our films are able to break through to the TikTok generation, as well as fans of history. We take this into consideration when writing the script, constructing the imagery, and selecting the music. We are confident that we can keep a junior high school class just as engaged as any college architectural class. And of course, lastly, one of the biggest challenges when documenting history is securing the proper photos and footage to illustrate the desired narrative. And to remedy this, we will produce high-quality animations as well as realistic CGI, as I mentioned earlier, of Williams's long-gone marvels. Keeping the history intact. To ensure the historic timeline and details are accurate, we have assembled a reliable team of both accredited and passionate local historians, as well as preservation and architectural leaders. First up, we have the executive director of the Neon Museum, Aaron Berger. We had a great meeting. Not only will he be helping out as an advisor, he's also offered his team at the Neon Museum, who have a plethora of materials and knowledge of Mr. Williams' work. Next up, we have Amy Raymer, who is the board vice president of the Nevada Preservation Foundation, as well as the executive director of NPF, Dr. Paige Figgenbaum, and Tani Bennett-White, who is the program consultant. I've had a meeting with all of these ladies. They are very passionate about this particular part of history, and they're going to be great advisors for this film. And there's more to come, too, so, because they know everybody. Next up, we have Yana Ireland, who is a photographer and author. She published a book called Regarding Paul R. Williams, and it was a traveling photography show. She took pictures of details of his architecture and traveled across the country with it. Next up, we have Clay T. White, who we all know is the director of oral history at UNLV. And returning to us will be Tyler D. Perry, PhD, associate professor of African American Studies at UNLV. For the premiere, we are excited to partner with the Neon Museum. We don't know what that's going to look like yet, but as we get closer, we will be in contact with Dr. C. Brandt and the rest of you. But that's going to be fun for an August of 2025 release. Deliverables. It's very important to us that we deliver a project that the commission can be proud of. And so we intend to keep you fully informed on the progress throughout the duration of the production. Progress updates will be delivered monthly. Commission members are always welcome to attend any production meetings and are always invited to attend interviews or production shoots. Now, the way we do this is I create a secret part on my website. You guys will all have links to it, so at any time you guys can, it's only for the commission, you guys will be able to check on the budget activity as well as past and upcoming interviews. And of course, you'll get prompt responses to any questions or concerns that you might have. As far as our meetings, we do those on Zoom. If you guys have the time, if you want to see how it's going, you guys are welcome to join those. The links will be sent to you each month, and we'd love to have you in there. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this will be a 100% Centennial Commission project. The commission will be recognized in name and logo at both the beginning and the end of the film. We loved your logo so much that we recreated it in 3D and made it a little bit more cinematic, a gift that we gave you for helping out on the last project. So, promotion. In addition to the regular PR, local news and newspapers and radio, we're going to be creating these flyer-sized postcards that will be distributed throughout the valley wherever architecture or Paul Revere Williams is relevant, so places like the Neon Museum, the offices at the NPF, events that may be relevant to it. And what it will be is just basically, on the front, you'll see the cover of the film, as well as the logo for the Centennial Commission. On the back will be a short description of what this film is. Now, once this film is delivered to Dr. C. Brandt and it is uploaded to the City of Las Vegas YouTube channel, a QR code will be generated that will be put on these postcards. And all one has to do is take their smartphone or tablet, scan it, and it takes them directly to the video on the YouTube channel. Now, I suggest you do this for all your films. We'd be happy to design those for you, but we're going to start with this one here. Of course, the idea is to keep a steady flow of traffic and viewership coming to the city's YouTube channel. All right, and lastly, the legacy continues. We're all excited about the Las Vegas Museum of Art, which will be right here in the city, not far from here. At the beginning of this month, it was announced that the architect for this structure will be Francis Kire, who is an African-German architect who has works in China, Switzerland, London, Germany. This is going to be his first architecture structure in America, right here in Las Vegas. And the reason I put it in here is when you read those articles, when asked who inspired him the most, you guessed it, he named Paul Revere Williams. So, next up is our production timeline. You guys know these things are tentative. You know, it just kind of gives us a guideline. They don't always fall right on those dates, but we do promise to have it done by July 1st and delivered to Dr. Seabrandt for an August 2nd film premiere event. And that's it. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. And let me say for the record, Dr. Seabrandt and her team do pretty good at auditing. Like that, you know, they make sure that, you know, the paperwork makes sense. There was a few times I turned things in, they were like, we don't understand what this is, and so I had to fix it. So just wanted to say that for the record. Thank you so much. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gates. We will have them one question right up front. Were you able to reach any member of the family to
Okay,
come
well,
sit on your committee or at least screen through?
Well, that's what we're working on. Karen Hudson, who is his granddaughter, she's pretty much the executor of the of his estate. We have not been able, we tried to go see her. She was having an event at the Beverly Hills Hotel, but that was postponed until, I believe, February. So we're still trying to get in touch with her. We want to go through her first, since she is the executor. We don't want to go around her, and, you know, because there are some other grandchildren, but she's the one who calls the shots for his legacy.
Okay, so at that point, I mean, the plans will continue to try to get her involved.
Absolutely.
And as the first read-through of whatever your data that you're using for the accuracy.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. So let me open this up, and we'll go ahead and we'll start with Mr. Stoddall.
Two quick questions. One, thank you for clarifying at the very beginning, and again, that this is a work for hire. So two elements. It is both what the documentary is and the raw footage. Anything that is the city is paying you for will be turned over to the city, the documentary as well as the raw footage. And you're agreeing to that, I understand.
I absolutely
The
do.
next step is, of course, is the contract, and the contract needs to be written to include the element. It doesn't include that currently. It just says.
Correct. And remember, a grant is different than a contract. So keeping in mind while you vote on this, that it would have to be a contract that would require the commission's approval at the next meeting. So it would delay the project.
Well, there's a contract in the packet.
That's a grant. I know it's confusing, but it's the different way in which we process administratively payments to
Okay,
the
the
recipient.
one that the deputy city attorney signs and the mayor signs and Michael House signs and Emmett Gates signs, this is not a contract.
Correct, that's a grant, because a grant
And
requires.
so the grant can change the language of the grant to reflect the copyright.
Well, it already says in there that he has to give us the film, but if it's a work for hire, I cannot do a grant. If it's a work for hire, it has to be a contract, so I'll have to go back, write the contract, work with I know it's.
No, I don't think, this is the agreement that he's going to sign.
If the commission agrees for a grant, but if it's a work for hire, it's different, it's a contract. I don't know how else to explain it. I see Candace in the office.
His application, Dr. Seabrandt, has his application to do this film come in as a request for a grant?
Yes, it has.
There you are.
Okay,
He's
so
asking
I'm
for
asking
a
the city
grant.
attorney, can this document be changed?
Certainly can, but according to Dr. Seabrandt, it can't be a contract for hire.
No, what I'm saying is, this is a request for a grant funding project.
Correct.
If the commission would prefer to do a work for hire, means that we pay Mr. Gates just like we pay Boyd. It requires, in order to get that approved, it requires that I work with our contracts office and make a contract that shows that it's not a grant. It's a contract that we are hiring him to make a product for the commission.
It's because it's the law, in my opinion, that there's confusion. I think he has come in, and correct me if I'm wrong, to seek money from the commission for a grant, which is why this piece of paper. Anything that is not signed can be changed. Can you not? Well, and Mr. Steve just said yes. Until it's signed by both the city or the commission and by the producer, it stands as what you've got here, but until we sign it, that can alter.
Well, it can change, but again,
Right.
one is a
And
grant.
you're dealing with the legal
One is a
piece.
grant or agreement,
Right.
one is a contract.
Right. But
So-
that's more your legal and if.
Right, so if,
Okay.
No, all I'm saying is let's just change the grant language.
we can't, it has to be a contract.
No, why can't you, we're good,
Okay.
not,
What are we changing the grant? I'm confused on the
Wait one
confusion.
second, let's hear from Commissioner Mowbray.
Can we all look at page 2 of the agreement?
All right, wait, you have to turn on your microphone, sir. The right button till the little red light goes on. Speak, where it says speak.
There we
There
go.
you are. Okay,
Okay,
start
let's take a
again.
look at the first page of the agreement. Right under paragraph 5, which says Centennial recognition, couldn't we also have a paragraph under that that says, in addition to giving this recognition, there's a separate paragraph that all rights, private data, backup data will be provided to the commission. And we have, and in that paragraph also say, and the applicant cedes any copyright authority, making sure that language is okay to the commission.
Okay, Sebring, for the record, let me clarify that. We can put any language in there. It is the matter of how we pay this gentleman. That, I know that you're not behind the scenes of how it works, and maybe Candace will bail me out here. How it works, because if it's a grant agreement, it comes from, it processes one specific way. He pays, gives us the receipts, we pay him back.
right,
Understood.
If it's a contract, it's processed differently in our finance office, in our accounts payable office. And it is that we're paying him and says, I mean, he still has to provide us proof that he has done the work, but he doesn't give us money, we give him money. And so I cannot do that with a grant agreement, it has to be a
It's just
contract.
legal. It's just
think
the
we-
mess of the law
I think we
and
can
legal.
have precatory language in here that this will follow, if you have to, in the actual contract, we can put it there, that's fine, but in this agreement, so there's no surprises down the road, the applicant knows that the copyright belongs to the Centennial Commission. of the City of Las
On
Vegas.
this
yes.
specific grant, because it is not signed, we can add, can we not, the stipulations to which hopefully Mr. Gates agrees, and we have put in what has been requested. And it's legal, and we will do it with each contract that we get into or each grant that we assign. And then, Commissioner Creer, did you want to say?
It's my understanding that Dr. Sebring says that the rights of the copyrights are already in each agreement that we do have
Right.
for all of our production partners that we have.
Right.
And so I'm confused on what it is exactly we're looking to change within the agreement. And I have
Well,
another question.
look at
Once
page
this
one.
gets settled, I have another question regarding the.
Just look, I'm on page 1 of this agreement. It simply says the only requirement is that it runs on channel 2. All we're suggesting is that we add a line there that says the city maintains the copyright, period. That's all we're asking.
And on this particular grant,
Correct, but keeping in mind, it's not a work for hire, it's a grant.
correct?
Yeah.
And Mr.
Correct.
Gates would have to agree to that to pay to show us his pay stubs of he's
Yes.
paid his vendors, and then we
Right.
pay him back.
You're basically auditing what he says he's going to be doing, that he's doing it, at which point, once he shows you that, then you pay him out of the grant.
Right, but just keep in mind, that a work for hire is very different than a grant.
Correct.
So are we saying, Seth, that in our contract that we have with any production company, that the rights of the copyright are not in there already? I was always under the assumption that they were in there and that the Centennial Commission owned the rights to, and could use them as they see fit.
Yeah, so, and let me go back and kind of, this has evolved over time. We've amended our grant agreement. We've worked on the contract, for example, that we have with Boyd. So ordinarily, when we give a grant for a documentary, the recipient of the grant would retain the copyright. And all that we asked for, and this evolved as well, we wanted the ability to show it on KCLV. And we realized our grant agreement, this is probably 3 or 4 years ago, our grant agreement didn't actually have language in there that allowed us to do that. So the first thing Centennial Commission did was say, well, we're paying for these. We want to be able to show them on KCLV if Communications wants to show them. So we added that language. Then we retained Boyd to do the Decade series. We did that as a work for hire, where we were actually essentially the applicant, for lack of a better way to put it. We went and said, we want a documentary that covers this scope, you're going to do that, and we own the copyright, we own all the materials, we own everything that's affiliated with that documentary. It sounds like what we'd like to do with this one is a bit of a hybrid of the two, where it's a grant agreement where we are not retaining the full or well, maybe we are, maybe that's the intent, is we want to retain the copyright to it. But it wasn't something that we did as a work for hire, so it's somewhere in the middle. I don't know what to call that exactly, but I think that's what the intent of the commission is. And I did talk with Val, and that is, if you want to just make that one change to the grant agreement, I think we can approve that today with the condition that the grant agreement will be revised to reflect that change that Mr. Stoddall just mentioned.
I have a question, a follow-up then on that. Why would we do it specifically just for this one? It seems like there should be a standard set within the commission that says that if we fund a documentary for anything, then the commission, owns the rights and copyrights and can do what they want to with it. I don't think we should exclude Mr. Gates, give him, and not do the next one that comes up or any of them beforehand.
Yeah, so Seth Floyd, for the record, maybe we should have styled the first item a little bit differently, because I think that's what we were trying to get at with the previous item, was how do we want to do the documentaries? What would Centennial Commission like for its role to be? I certainly think, Councilman, we would take direction on exactly how we want the rights to be allocated for these. I mean, that would give us some certainty as staff. It would give the applicants some understanding of what they're applying for, and then, of course, it would give Commission the certainty to know what they're getting. So that's something, Councilman, with your direction, we could do that going forward.
So then,
revise the grant agreement.
maybe we do this. We add a condition to this particular award of a grant that gets some language in there. We can give direction to staff to include direction for a condition that would talk about copyrights and what that is, and then bring to the commission an item that would be in all moving forward, any production that happens that the Centennial Commission funds, then, and I don't know if we even need a agenda item for that, or
I don't like
whatever
the
that includes.
rigidity of that.
What was that, ma'am? I'm sorry?
The rigidity of it has to be only this way, because it may come, and with the different opinions on this particular contract, or this grant, to put in the paragraph that Commissioner Mowbray suggested on yours, if you agree to that, to give the copyright authority to the Commission of the Centennial, that would work. I'd hate to put something in stone that doesn't allow us the flexibility for some unknown that we're going to be dealing with, and that perhaps it's better to have a one-time shot and not have the copyright on it.
I agree 100%, but I think what needs to be taken care of is our grant application. Seth, that needs to be rewritten. It needs to be clarified. The way it says right now is only one way it can be done. And so the grant application for documentaries is different than saying, we want you to paint this photograph. And that's a whole nother set of laws about the painter's right to have that. For documentaries, as I say, there's 6 or 7 different ways to do that. We're suggesting that there are going to be multiple ways, and the way the application says right now, it's not very clear. It mixes art and documentaries, and while they can be the same one, because we've had that conversation, documentaries should have some artistic value. The fact is, I would suggest to staff to rewrite the grant application for documentaries. I don't think we should limit that. You may want to come to us and say, I've got this fantastic idea,
Right.
but I want to maintain
Correct.
the copyright. And we would look at you and say, let me hear how good this idea is, and we may say yes, but we probably would say, no, the city wants to maintain the copyright. But we would know, you would know that based on the application process.
And
So,
it's just a checkbox
Right.
on the application
Right.
with a statement that the city prefers to own the copy, right? And then check it or whatever, and then go into discussion and come back to the commission.
so what do we need to approve this, do we
To
need?
put in on this particular grant,
I'll make a motion.
no, you can't do it until you turn on your microphone.
Microphone.
Commissioner Mowbray here, I make a motion to approve this grant application and modify it to add a paragraph that the copyright and the raw data and the interviews remain with the City of Las Vegas Centennial Commission.
Okay, thank you. Now hold that before we get a second, because we have 3 comments down here. You go ahead.
All right, Commissioner Stenock, for the record. Are you asking the commission to fund the entire amount for this project?
No, we'll probably get more funding. That's what we did with the last one, too. We've already started production on this. We're still in the pre-production phase. I just reformatted what the outcome was going to be after my last meeting with the commission. But the commission will be the biggest funder of it, absolutely.
Because in the packet, you had a total project cost of $408,000. So that's a pretty big gap from the $294 you're asking for.
I'm sorry?
In your packet, you said the total project cost was $408,000?
I'm sorry, for this project here? Or?
I believe so,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what it says.
It says 400? No, that's, no, I didn't, there must be a mix-up there. I don't know that number.
So to your statement here, in this request, there is no additional cost beyond the $294,250 coming as you move forward?
No.
This is the
Anything-
entirety?
That's the entirety, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know where that.
Commissioner, did you
Well, it
hear
says
that?
408. It says 408.
Yeah, it says 408.
Yeah, it
It's the
says
total cost.
408.
I don't, yeah, can I see that? Yeah, I've never heard of that number.
Yeah.
You know, Mayor, it's over 60 years since I went to law school, but I've got to say, this entire conversation exalts form over substance. It's what's driving me crazy. Is it not possible in the future, not this, we want to move this forward, to have a contract that indicates whether we want this to build for hire or one of the 6 other options that the Commissioner Stoddard's indicated? I don't understand why we need the grant and the contract separately, why that could not be done in a single document for us to approve or disapprove prospectively, not to delay this action day. And someday,
Okay.
maybe somebody can come up with an answer at another meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner.
No, I
Please go ahead. Can you explain the differential of this paper?
Yeah, I see, yeah. So on the right, that is the grant request. Any additional, we will take care of. You know, we'll get other people, other funders. That's what we did for the last project. What you're seeing on the right, the grant request, that's all we're asking for the commission to assist. I apologize for that.
Is that clarity? So, I mean, that's going to be the total request that you have out there in the world, but for us in this commission, it is $294,250 in total with this production complete
Yes.
from this commission, not coming back.
Yeah, no, that's all we're asking for the
Okay,
commission.
thank you. And Commissioner Creer, I see you with your light on.
I do. So I need some clarity on, we're saying specifically, and we've said this a couple of times, that for this particular agenda item, we're looking to add a addendum or a condition that the commission owns the rights to the copyright.
Yes, that's
Okay.
the paragraph that's
But
going in.
my question is, what makes, if we aren't going to do it for every production that comes in front of this commission, what makes this production so special that we are requiring the applicant to have to give up his rights to the copyright? Now, are we going to do it for the next one?
Who knows?
And I need to understand what the differentiations would be to qualify someone to have to give up the copyrights or to keep the copyright.
I think we want to get.
Can I say something?
I know you said that you were willing to give it up, but that's not the point.
Got you.
The point is that if we're going to do it, then we're going to do it, and then how are we going to pick and choose who gets the copyright, who gets to keep it, or what? So I'm just trying to understand that.
Yeah. Emmett Gates, for the record. I saw how much confusion it caused with my last project and some others. I figured this was just the easiest way. I mean, it is
Yeah.
for the commission.
Yeah, but the question is not for you, it's for the commission.
Councilman, let me give you the answer. Councilman, I think that, like you and I think other members of the commission felt that we already own the copyright. I think you get the honor of being the first.
Okay.
But from this point on, who owns the copyright is going to be the city, this commission.
Okay, then we either need to express that, give direction to staff to include that language in moving forward.
And that is
But
the-
then the mayor made a valid statement where you said you don't want to be so rigid.
No, but on this particular contract with Emmett Gates, this project, that is a motion made by Commissioner Mowbray to put that wording into this grant application. And that's the motion for which I need a second.
I'll second it.
And seconded by Commissioner Bryan. Is there any question or comment from those on the phone?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Please vote, signify orally, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Are
Aye.
any opposed? All right, the motion carries.
Commissioner Brandenburg,
Yes,
is that an aye?
I voted aye, yes.
yes.
Thank you.
And I heard Commissioner Brown. So as we go forward on each, you deal with it separately. Oh, there it all passed.
Right on.
So-
Thank you so much.
So you will then sign this after Dr. Seabrandt gets that paragraph that Commissioner Mowbray suggested go into the body of the property, of the paper. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, and I hear you, Commissioner Creer, because really, this needs more discussion. And I would definitely, Dr. Seabrandt, I don't know if it will ever change. We have flexibility. We do have precedent now in something, and whether that will hold up going forward or not, who knows, and whether we'll be in contract. But I think anytime you get lawyers involved, everything gets confused. So I don't see any lawyers to my left. I see all the lawyers on my right and below. So thank you. We'll look forward to hearing from you, but you will then be in touch with Dr. Seabrandt to sign so we can sign. Thank you. And did you put special wording down to give to Dr. Seabrandt, what you had?
I wrote it down.
Oh, good. Okay. We are now, I think, on 8? Okay, discussion for possible action regarding approval of a grant request for $558,983.60 by the Neon Museum for the costs associated with the creation, implementation, and running of the Mobile Learning Initiative, Neon History on Wheels, for a duration of 3 years, and authorizing the president to execute the grant agreement as approved by the city attorney, all wards. And you are, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good afternoon, Mayor. I'm Aaron Berger. I'm the director of the Neon Museum. It's a pleasure to see you all today. We would like to withdraw that request without prejudice at this point. So there will be a future time that we can bring this back to you for further discussion.
Okay, and Mr. Steed, is that the best way in his going, either to strike it and then
Thank you,
there's
Senator.
no penalty if you withdraw without prejudice? Doesn't that give him a timeline?
You're free to either strike it or allow him to withdraw it. There's no prejudice involved because that concept comes from certain codes that say after you've asked for something, you have to wait a period of time. That's zoning preliminarily and licensing. Because this has nothing to do with it, there's no need to say without prejudice, it's a given.
Well, all in favor, please well, but we
I'm
have to
withdrawing.
still vote on it. So all in favor, please signify by aye.
Excuse me, who made the motion to accept?
The applicant made,
Yeah, but I need a motion to accept withdrawal.
okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Coffin did.
Thank you.
And we need a second because that's a Bob Stovedall thing, and he's seconding it. All right, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and both on the phone. Done. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 9. 240475 CLC1, final report by staff from the Neon Museum located 700 Las Vegas Boulevard North regarding the completion of the interior repairs and upgrades of La Concha Motel lobby funded by the Commission for the Las Vegas Centennial, Ward 5, Councilman Creer. And before he gets started, any comment, Dr. Seabrandt?
No, thank you.
Okay. I thought you were going to mention this is complete.
Sorry, this is on the La Concha.
Yes. On number 9, regarding the completion of the interior repairs and upgrades.
Yes, so this project was to do the repairs, new carpeting, paint, some electrical work inside the La Concha lobby. All of that has been completed, and it also did fund a report that shows the thermal imaging of the La Concha. So this project itself has been completed. That shows all the repairs and upgrades that Mr. Berger is going to give us a rundown on.
Okay, so the work is complete.
Yes, the repairs and
The
upgrades.
bills are paid?
I don't think you've submitted yet, have you? Have you? Okay.
Okay, please, yours. Again, if you announce yourself.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Aaron Berger, for the record, the Executive Director at the Neon Museum. It's a pleasure to stand before you today and give you a report on the La Concha Motel roof structure condition assessment and the facility upgrades that we have completed as a result of the generous funding from the Centennial Commission. Just to sort of set the stage, we thought it would be helpful to try and start first by giving you a bit of a timeline. So looking at 1961, this is when the building was first created. We just talked about Paul Revere Williams. This is a PRW designed building. Then 2006, the building was disassembled and moved to the Neon Museum campus. It went over a period of 8 months. In 2007, it was reassembled. 2012, the museum opens to the public. 2015, the Nevada State Register accepts this onto its Register of Historic Places. 2017, WJE and Associates conducted an assessment that brought concern towards the roofing of the building. And so the reason I included this image is this is what we're talking about here, is the idea that we have taken a building that, because of its size and its nature, was not able to be moved in one piece. It was in fact broken into 11 pieces. Broken isn't the right word. Separated into 11 pieces and moved to its current site. So 7 years later, the Centennial Commission has provided the funding for us to do the follow-up on the 2017 report that you see as that last bullet down there. The purpose of the 2024 report was to determine the structural integrity of La Concha, and with a specific interest in water intrusion, making sure that the building is structurally sound and are we finding any evidence of water intrusion. There is a confusion and a distinction that is something that's a little difficult to understand, and I certainly needed help, which is understanding that this is about the structure itself, not about the roof. So we're talking about the concrete infrastructure of the building, not about the roofing like you would have on your own personal house, or the coating. So the good news, I'm going to cut to the end here, still go through these slides with you, but the good news is that the resulting report was very short and uneventful. That as commissioners or staff may have read through this, there may have been a concern that it wasn't thorough, when in fact it was extremely thorough in its efforts and in its assessment and analysis, but the outcomes showed no water intrusion and that there was a solid and secure structure. That's what we want out of a report. Looking ahead, unlike the 2017 report, this 2024 assessment included a non-destructive testing. So, this is reducing the risk of permanently harming the structure and or the construction materials. So the Secretary of the Interior Standards recommends that you do non-destructive testing first. If a report comes back saying there are issues, there are problems with the structure, then you go through and you begin doing things like core samples. But a core sample is something that's going to leave a permanent damage or permanent mark to the building. And as a result, because there was no concern with the structure of the building, there was no need to go further with core sampling. Non-destructive testing includes visual, audible, and laser analysis. The two people who were brought in to do this work, on the left you see Mel Green. Mel Green was the principal in charge of actually the structural engineer who moved the La Concha in 2006 and worked towards its reassembly in 2007. And then with the help of Al White, who specializes in historic preservation and doing non-destructive analysis. We had them do this work. This is an image here of Al White. And this is where he's using ground penetrating radar, GPR. It is non-destructive, as I said. It's a technique in which radio waves are used to measure the thickness and look to identify any types of gaps that you may find in the layers. So this building, being not a rectangle made of cinder block or anything of that nature, this is one that takes a special use in order to assess its care. So the gaps would suggest that there's a place for water intrusion. It would suggest that there's a separation between the roof membrane and the roofing itself or the cement itself, or that there's some sort of structural damage that has occurred. There were no gaps found in this report. This is an image of Al White doing an audible test. So this is just a ball peen hammer being used to determine if there is a hollow portion anywhere within the structure itself. Hollow portions, again, would indicate some form of a gap or water intrusion, a separation of the layers. The audible results show there's no evidence of a gap or any type of water intrusion inside the building. This image is one on the left that just gives you an aerial view of La Concha, a view that most of us don't get to see. So the three soffits, so the three, if you look at the green arrows, those are soffits, the parabolas that come out that make the La Concha such a special and unique building, are darker than the center portion. The reason for that is just simply that sort of orangish red circle in the center, that's where there is heat. This was done in November, so there's heat on the interior of the building. The exterior of the building is cold. What we're looking for in this thermal imaging is any type of crack, anything that may be not even visible to an eye, but there is something that's going to show some sort of damage. We're looking for consistency. So consistency in coloring. So as you look at those three soffits on the outside where those green arrows are, you see a consistency in the exterior of the building. You also see a consistency where there is cover over the interior of the building. That darker purple in the center, that's actually where there's the most amount of cement put into the building proper. So if you look back at the left image, you see those soffits, those curves, that's where rainwater all would sort of congregate. So that's where the most cement is kept, and that's why you'll see that darker purple in the center of that image. Going forward, we did that thermal imaging on the interior of the building as well, just to show you what you're looking at, because I know none of you have degrees in all of this, neither do I. So in this image, what you're seeing is the bright colors are actually the steel beams that are used as support structures. So those are steel beams. The thin white lines that you see are electrical conduit that we'll show you a little bit more as we go forward. It's important to note that there are no cracks. You're seeing, again, a consistency in color. So there's nothing here that's indicating gaps or areas of concern. Going forward, I just included these two images. So again, that's the same image you just saw on the left. That's the same image there. On the right, what this dotted line represents is where we joined the pieces back together in 2007. So that would be an area where there would be potential cracking, gaps, areas of concern within the structure of the building. And you can see through that consistent imagery there aren't any cracks, both to the eye and also through thermal imaging. We also had done, as a part of this report, a 3D model. This is the first time in the structure's history that we have accurate measurements of the building. So what's wonderful is, A, that helps us tremendously with conservation and maintenance and repair, but it also provides an educational component. Because we now have accurate measurements of the building, we can use 3D models and create La Conchas to scale for students to learn about architecture and design, and really tout the success of Paul Revere Williams in the process. That's the end of my assessment part, the roof part. Do you have questions about that before I show you the interior improvements?
Any questions?
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Stodo.
You're right, I don't have a degree. So I read the report 6 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the report, this work, the pretty pictures you showed were given to Mel Green, and he wrote the narrative. And the narrative that we were promised last year would be a blueprint. Those were the specific words, a blueprint, a comprehensive plan on how to save for future generations, the shell, this particular thing. His 6-page report ended with a half-page of recommendations and options. Short-term options.
Long-term options.
And long-term recommendations.
Yep.
The short-term recommendation was go get a contractor and fix it. The long-term recommendation was go get a building contractor and fix it. That was the results of a $32,000 that this commission spent. I don't see a blueprint for the future in this. And the answer that we were also told we were going to get, can the La Concha be safely moved again? I don't see that answer in this report.
That was not part of that request. That request
Well,
was
no,
not.
that's what the minutes of the meeting say that we were promised would come out of this specifically, and the mayor said, we'll get you some extra money. And you said, no, that suffices. This will do it. But specifically, it said we would get an answer about whether or not we can safely move. Because the mayor said, I would be in favor of moving if we can do it safely. But that answer is not in that $32,000 report. So I read it again, and I read it again, and I read it 6 times looking for that, and I made 6 pages of single-spaced notes, which I'm not going to go over for this thing. But there's not $32,000 worth of information in there.
There is. The reality of this report being done and coming back and finding out that a building constructed in 1961, at a time that more than likely Clark County did not have a building inspector because there were vacancies in building inspection at the time, that this building has been dismantled, moved, and reassembled.
Right.
And we are finding out that this building is structurally sound is an incredible achievement. And it's an amazing act of stewardship on the behalf of the museum.
So the blueprint that we are given, that you were given, that you stroked a check for $32,000, was to go out and get a building contractor and have it repaired. And that's both the long and the short term. That doesn't seem to me to be a blueprint. That's a half-page, double-spaced response from Mel Green, who up until this report, I had a high degree of all the work he has done for the past decades. But if you move this, are we simply taking Paul Revere's design, or are we really going to be moving La Concha or just his design?
If I may
That's not-
interrupt here, if I might.
Please.
I've had an in-depth conversation with our city manager, so I'm going to turn to Mr. Floyd here about his presence. He was going to be here today to address just what you've asked.
great.
But he's not because, and I will turn it over to Seth Floyd.
Thank you, Mayor. Seth
please.
Floyd for the record. Yeah, so I think the scope of this item was the report that was done. It's a separate conversation, I think, about whether the building could be possibly moved. I think step 1 of that, as I understand it, is to understand the condition of the building as it sits right now, which is an important first step, obviously, because if it's not in good shape now, that may affect a lot of its future. But it sounds like the report has confirmed that it is, and in particular, it is even after having been moved once. So my understanding is that's a separate conversation, not part of the scope of this report.
All right, I'm just saying we were told it would be.
Right,
And that's in the minutes of the meeting and in the July 20.
Correct.
And also, this report was due in January of this year. But the report says August. Did you just get this report, or did you get it in January?
The report came to us, hold on.
Because on the front of the cover, it says August.
The report came to us in August, correct. The report came to us in August.
This is the full report. This is the entire report.
You should have both Mel Green's and Acquire's report, which also includes, as you talk about blueprints, includes the architectural drawings, measurements, and renderings of the building.
Okay, all right.
So as we look to continuation of what's going to come,
Yeah.
what Dr. Seabrand or Mr. Floyd, because you've spoken with the city manager who was formerly the head of Public Works here and was part of moving the building. His career at City Hall has been like 27 years. So specifically, I did ask him, and when will that meeting take place for the exact questions that Mr. Stoddall has asked?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I believe there may be a report coming on that at the November meeting, if you're looking for a timeline. So sometime
Yes.
between this meeting and November, we'll be gathering that information.
And therefore, I mean, because these are very important questions, and those things were asked, And Mr. Stoddall is absolutely correct on the expectation, but we don't need to go into that at this point, because accordingly, in November, that meeting, you will be able to ask Mr. Jansen the specifics on the first move and then this as well. And so I don't know if there, is anybody, Ms. Brown, Mr. Mark Brandenburg, any comment or question on this report?
No, not at this time.
And any questions here? This is a report only?
This is a report only. This is the assessment. I do have images of what we have done as far as facility upgrades as a result of the Centennial Commission's funding.
Please finish.
So these are, in this image here, what you're looking at is the La Concha wall and the original sign that was that adorned the lobby. So in this, you can see that on the top portion, there's plaster. On the bottom portion, there's just exposed wall. So what we have done is we have brought in plasterers who have cared for the wall, obviously taking care of the mosaic and paying special attention to that piece. We also came through and repainted everything, giving it fresh paint. We also took in and replaced all carpeting. So that carpeting has been installed in 2012 and has not been updated since then. So well over, far too many visitors have walked on that carpeting. So at this point, we have put in new carpeting that is also reminiscent of the original that was installed. We have also gone through and addressed conduit issues where you can see in these green arrows where the conduit is sagging and drooping from the ceiling. So we have addressed that as well. In this image, that's the finished product there. This is an image from the mid-60s of the La Concha as it stands or stood at the time, and this is today. So giving you a concept of what that looked like. As far as budget went, I'm very proud to say that we came in under budget with this project. So it is a 9.8% below what we asked for in our grant, coming in through cost savings through electrical, painting, plastering, carpet. And finally, I've also included, because we want to talk about stewardship of our report, not only our building, but of course all of our collection. I have brought copies of our 24 annual report that I've provided for the commission so that you can learn about what steps we're taking, not only on this project, but in all of the collection that the museum is working towards preserving Las Vegas history. So that's here for you as well.
And is this report, does that need formal acceptance?
No, it's just a report.
Just a report. So any other questions, comments? And when in November is the commission meeting again, so that we can follow up with that agenda and have Mr. Berger back along with Mr. Jansen and anybody else to speak to the questions that Mr. Stoddall has
November
brought up?
25th is the meeting date.
What?
November
Is that
25th?
Thanksgiving?
It's the week of Thanksgiving. It's the Monday of that week.
Monday
yeah.
of Thanksgiving?
Good, that would, I mean, that's fine, whenever the meeting is. I would hope, Aaron, at that point, you could also clear as best you can, the future. There's all kinds of stories in the press and appearance before the city council that there may be some expansion plans downtown, a couple of different buildings, and also the idea of expanding the concept of the Neon Museum to more of a Las Vegas entertainment museum, expanding that idea. If there could be some part of that, I don't know what's appropriate for an agenda item, but where I'm getting is whether it's the mobile Neon Museum or moving La Concha downtown, I think this commission deserves and needs some understanding of what's the plan? What's the plan for the neon, rather than try and hit this $200,000 in piecemeal kind of thing? If we could just get some broad sense of where you would like to take this, and some time period. We meant to ask the Williams documentary. Did you have a conversation with him regarding when La Concha could be moved?
Oh, as far as when La Concha will be moved?
Potentially.
We don't have that number now. So let me speak just very briefly on that topic and sort of speak to the timeline of what the reason for the Neon Museum's announcement at the time that it made its announcement. It's very unorthodox. It's extremely unorthodox. Typically, when a nonprofit is going to expand, grow, change locations, any of those types of things, it goes out, it secures land, it comes up with renderings, it builds a base of foundation support, it raises 90% of the money, and then makes a public announcement and says, here you go, this is what we're going to do. And we have a fully baked plan that accompanies that. Because the Neon Museum is at the center point of the tourist improvement district that has been established within the Arts District area, because the Neon Museum is the reason for driving the tourism and increasing that level of tourism, we had to make the announcement that we were going to secure our locations there. We have 2 sites that we are working towards, but as far as having this fully idealized or idealized rendering and what will be, we're still in that process. And the commission is welcome to be a part of that. We will have process. The next step in this phase is something that's called interpretive planning. That's where we look at our collection, we look at the collections that are in the community, and we determine how we can best use this first opportunity for 80,000 square feet of interior space and use that to its highest and best use for the visitor. The commission is welcome to participate in that, and we would encourage that active engagement.
And you think maybe by
November?
Maybe you may have some update on that or some more specifics?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
I don't want to come before the commission and tell you things that are going to be in an ever-changing mode. I do want to explain why you learned about it in that order, as opposed to the other way around.
And the last thing is what I said at the very beginning. The filter for this group is, legal filter, is the city of Las Vegas, the history of the city of Las Vegas.
Of course.
And the first one here is, and not the Strip, and not the Mirage, and not the Red Rock, or the Hard Rock, and not the Stardust Hotel. We need to understand what are the particular elements that you are preserving within the city of Las Vegas. To have a tourist attraction is wonderful, but that's not our mission. Our mission is preserving history of the city of Las Vegas. So I appreciate your help.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to that point, I encourage you to review the annual report.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you for
6
bringing
times.
them.
I have no doubt.
Okay, we're on to agenda item number 10, 240476, CLC1. A final report by staff from the Mob Museum located 300 Stewart Avenue regarding the completion of the Mob Museum documentary funded by the Commission for the Las Vegas Centennial. This is in Ward 5 with Councilman Creer.
Excuse me. Jonathan Ullman, President and CEO of the Mob Museum.
Good afternoon.
Jeff Schumacher, Vice President of the Mob Museum.
Thank you.
I took a drink of water and I realized the date on this presentation is 2034, and that is a typo. There's 2024 still. Despite how long this meeting may seem. Members of the commission, we are very pleased to be here today to provide you with a final report on the grant that you generously awarded to us to fund the creation of a documentary about our historic building, the former U.S. Post Office and Federal Courthouse on Stewart Avenue. as well as the creation of an exhibit about the building that would be located within the museum, and an event to premiere both the film and the unveiling of the exhibit. So just to review how we got here, in the fall of 2022, we came before the commission and we were awarded a grant in the amount of $292,000, roughly. Just to clarify an earlier point, what came up at the very beginning of this meeting, that grant has been fully expended. So we did, because the final elements of our project were in June, the last invoice, that remaining $27,750 that was brought up earlier as having not been expended, was invoiced by us on July 10th, and it's not yet been processed. But the grant was fully expended, the $292,000. At the time that we were awarded, we solicited proposals from production companies for the film creation, and ultimately selected Boyd Productions.
The best.
I think we reviewed a number of responses to our request for proposals, but Boyd was a logical choice for us, largely because of their past experience with City of Las Vegas documentary projects. That original contract with Boyd Productions was in the amount of $229,000. That was subsequently increased by $47,000, which was not an increase that we came back to the commission for, but as we came to understand that we needed more work to appropriately tell this story, we did amend that contract. We increased it to a total of $277,000, and that $47,000 was additional expense borne by the museum. In addition to the Centennial Commission funding, I do need to note that we received a $6,000 grant from Nevada Humanities to also assist us with the creation of the exhibit component. In total, the museum contributed no less than $130,000 of our own resources in the form of staff costs, image and video licensing, that was a considerable expense, and then other expenses associated with the production of the film, as well as the researching, development, and fabrication of the exhibit, and the launch event. So we came back before the commission last January to formalize an extension. As we went through this process, and I want to be clear, we were not slow going in the creation of this documentary. This process has been illuminating to us. We went in with what we believe and was legitimately a firm knowledge of the history of our building, but in the course of creating this documentary, came to learn a lot more. So as we went through that process of reviewing scripts, reviewing rough cuts of the film, and kind of concentrating on both the history of the building as well as the transition to the museum that it is now, we went back and refined the film through a number of discussions. So we formalized that extension that brought us to June. And in June, we completed the film, we completed the exhibit, and we had our launch event on June 26th, a celebration of sorts. This was an opportunity for us to share the film with members of the commission, other people that were really instrumental, not just in the creation of the film, but really for the rehabilitation of the building, the original acquisition of the building. And you can see here, former Mayor Oscar Goodman, who under his watch, the building was secured from the federal government and transferred to the city of Las Vegas, along with Ellen Knowlton, who was the first board chair, former special agent in charge of the Las Vegas field office of the FBI. Other attendees, just Commissioner Stodel in the bottom right picture here along with Robert Chattel, the historic architect who was instrumental in the rehabilitation of the building and ensuring that all of that rehabilitation was done in conformance with Secretary of Interior standards. So we had this wonderful event. And really, this, much of this project has been a result of not just the staff effort, but many other individuals in the community. We did a lot of reaching out to get firsthand accounts about the history of the building, to work with partner organizations to get the resources that we needed, make certain that we understood the stories as well as had the best possible images and video that we could to tell the story. So we leaned heavily on board members, on our advisory council to assist. And I think I'm hoping that everybody has the opportunity to watch this because we're quite proud of the work that resulted. So to tell you more about the documentary itself, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Schumacher, who was really the driving force on our staff in its creation.
Thank you, Jonathan. I thought I would just go through some of the things we learned during the course of putting this documentary together and very quickly summarize, our findings, if you will. This 67-minute film tells the story of the federal building from its inception in the 1920s and its opening in 1933 through its transformation into a museum in the 21st century. In between, the building had a rich history, including challenges during construction, prominent criminal and civil court cases, a Senate committee hearing in 1950, its long service as the community's main post office, and its reinvention as a museum that draws more than 400,000 visitors per year. For many decades, the building served as a central gathering place for the community, a legacy that lives on today at the Mob Museum. This documentary is the product of many great minds and skilled hands, from community leaders like yourselves to the filmmakers from Boyd Productions and the Mob Museum, who turned a vision into a reality. Our research revealed that the federal building was funded and built to fill a need. In the early 1930s, Las Vegas was growing fast and could no longer be a distant satellite of Reno and Carson City. Federal services had to be available in Las Vegas, not 400 plus miles away. The original plans called for a post office with space for additional federal offices. A courtroom was not included. Lobbying by Nevada lawmakers and Las Vegas officials secured additional funds to add the courtroom. The federal building opened on November 11th, 1933. It was immediately heralded as an architectural wonder for a city of unspectacular 1- and 2-story buildings. The interviews we conducted for the document are really the documentary's greatest strength. We interviewed an array of historians and individuals who told us compelling stories about the building and its place in the community. This is Clay T's second appearance today. Our colleague Claire White focused on describing the building's history as a community gathering place. In the film, she highlights a number of ways in which members of the community interacted within the building's walls, including during the momentous years of World War II. Of course, one of the biggest historical events to occur in the federal building was the hearing conducted by the Kefauver Committee on November 15th, 1950. Senator Estes Kefauver and his fellow committee members traveled the country investigating organized crime's influence. The Las Vegas hearing was held in the courtroom on the second floor. The museum, my museum, honors this anniversary each year with a free day for local residents. In the 1950s, the federal courtroom was a busy place, with trials and hearings filling the calendar. Downtown casino owner Benny Binion made several appearances in the courtroom. Shocking. Two of the biggest trials in the building's history centered on newspaper publisher Hank Greenspun, who won both of them. That's a picture of Hank on the steps of the building. Another picture on the steps. An important trial in the early 1960s focused on the legitimacy of the state of Nevada's Black Book, excluding individuals of questionable character from casinos. Judges ultimately supported the Black Book, which continues to exist to this day. One of the most famous individuals to spend time in the building was Frank Sinatra, who testified before a grand jury investigating casino skimming in 1967. The film also covers the origins of the Mob Museum, of course, and that means talking with former Mayor Oscar Goodman, whom we often describe as our original visionary. But as Oscar would readily attest, another key to the museum's success was the addition of Ellen Knowlton, retired special agent in charge of the FBI's Las Vegas field office, as the first chair of the museum board. Ellen gave much needed balance to the project, and she's still involved with the museum today. As mentioned, the building's rehabilitation is another key part of the story, as the city of Las Vegas spent considerable time and resources to restore and upgrade the building. The building's historical integrity was retained thanks to the guidance of individuals such as Robert Chattel, who was interviewed for the film. The film points out that changes to the building made by federal operators in the latter half of the 20th century, not all of them particularly beneficial, were eliminated in order to return the building to its former glory. Part of that was longtime city architect Sam Tolman, who participated in the entire renovation project and offered fascinating insights into that process. And then we come to February 14th, 2012, when the Mob Museum opened. With great fanfare, Mayor Carolyn Goodman, former Mayor Oscar Goodman, and board chairwoman Ellen Knowlton oversaw the festivities. Many people remember that. While its use has changed, the federal building's majesty remains a highlight of any drive or walk down Stewart Avenue. It's a historic landmark worthy of preservation and pride. In addition to the documentary, we created an exhibit that provides our guests with an understanding of the historical importance of the building they are touring. And keep in mind, many people come from out of state to visit the Mob Museum. This is their first exposure to much of this history. The exhibit includes artifacts reflecting the building's 90-year history, including a Prohibition-era gin bottle found inside a column during the renovation in the early 2000s.
Oh, boy. Wow.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to create this documentary. I am confident that anyone who watches it will learn a few things about the history of Las Vegas. Thank you.
Awesome.
So just a couple other things to note. This is Jonathan Altman, again, for the record. This slide is about the promotion and distribution of the documentary. You can see some of our materials, of course, throughout the, whenever we push out materials such as the collateral, that is the e-blast design that's all the way to the right. The Centennial Commission is, of course, credited as the grantor of this project and receives a great deal of credit in the documentary itself. So these e-blasts, social media presence that we use to get the word out about the documentary, and will continue to do so. We've also had the opportunity to have it aired on KCLV Channel 2, as well as Vegas PBS has aired it twice already. So we're very excited about that and excited about future airings, certainly. And of course, it remains on our museum YouTube channel in perpetuity. The current slide that I have up, just some of the nice media coverage that we received upon the launch of the film. And again, we are extremely proud of this, and we are deeply appreciative of the Commission for funding it. And we expect that there will be quite a number of people out there in the world that will have a newfound appreciation of the history of this building and the creation of the Mob Museum as a result. So with that, we're happy to take any questions that you might have.
And under your stewardship, it has been a sensation. How many visitors have you had today?
Well, we had, we crossed 4 million last April, so.
4 million?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And your loans from the city?
We are a long time paid back.
Right, which was phenomenal to get that. So, comments, questions? Yes.
One quick comment, two quick comments. The first one is really hats off to you produced a documentary, a draft of a documentary, and you looked at it, you had your staff look at it, and you said that there are significant opportunities for improvement. And you went back and took it almost from square one. That's a major undertaking, and really a hats off to the quality of the Mob Museum and to what you're looking for. And then the last thing is Mr. Nitpicker here, if you can go back to your very first slide.
You already announced that. This one here?
No, the
Or
one that says, that one on the lower left, that's not 1932.
Right.
The exact date is November of 1957. Excuse me, 1947.
We have
The automobile.
if I may, we have a version of that, we have a modified version of that photograph that deletes that language, but we did not want to mar the historical integrity of that photo.
Zan is a San Francisco-based company and produced these postcards. The first one is, D1 is of the Flamingo Hotel opening.
Wow.
And it's a wonderful series of postcards. But anyway, that's just a fun, great job, thank you.
Really wonderful. Any comments, question from here? Yes, Commissioner Coffin.
Thank you, ma'am. I think that is good. It's really good. And I remember this building, of course, in the early 50s, playing baseball right behind it and visiting at the corner right there on the right hand, in the left picture, you'll see trees, which, we did believe in trees then. And it had a little place called the Bright Spot, I don't know, but it was like, it's all part of the history of the area. And that was a real nucleus for adults and the young. And it's bringing a lot of tourists into town. And I don't know if you've done a study on your visitors from out of town to kind of give us a feel for how many of those there are. I'm just curious, how many heads and beds has this literally?
Yeah, so last year we did 417,000 people through the door. And it breaks down roughly 90% non-local, 10% local.
Oh, my God. Is that a fact?
Great.
Well, and knowing that the LVCVA is starting more direct flights into England and into abroad, you may want to give them a call so you pre-market that, because I know the people in Great Britain, certainly, they're the biggest feeder ever. They're just impassioned by the mob and law enforcement. This is incredible. And I remember you're saying your family had a post office box in here.
Remember.
I do remember that.
1964, and the box number, 1964.
So awesome.
If you find it somewhere in there, we'd love to have it.
So any other comments, questions, Mr. Brandenburg or Ms. Brown?
No, not at all.
It's a great movie, and again,
It's a
the
great
Boyd
report.
Boyd
Jonathan, thank you for
Productions,
your
and
good
I
work.
know
Thank you.
Commissioner Mowbray was pumping us all the time, get that film done, so. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, I want to compliment Boyd Productions on this.
Okay.
As we went through this,
Your mic is not on again.
I want to compliment Boyd Productions on this. It was a work in progress. When I had initially asked for the funding to bring this before the board, that we need to preserve this, we can do it in the first person with personalities that were involved with the transition. The first draft didn't really capture the outrage, I would call it, of the community when former Mayor Oscar Goodman said, we're going to make this a mob museum. And it was a lot of energy. And then when Ellen Knowlton came on board, there was a counterweight there. And this thing came. This is a unique project for the ages. It tells the story of our town. And it's very balanced in its production. And it's accurate.
Right.
It's
That's
accurate.
great.
It's accurate.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of stories about Las Vegas, this thing is accurate to the T. And we got to thank Boyd Production for that. They really did a nice job. I mean, we almost had a restart on that, remember? And we went back to the drawing board and came up. And then the other thing I want to compliment the production crew on is Jonathan and Jeff. You know, you guys really have taken it. We handed this, putting a different hand on. But when you opened, you were brought on board. After all the construction was done, you took this project to the next level, the success that it is today. And that got captured in the final draft. So thank you.
I'd like to associate my comments with that of Commissioner Mowbray. I was there 6 days a week from 1951 to 1955 as a mail-in clerk at Bond's Jewelers, the box 1243.
Oh, see, another one. A little
Not to
ahead
be
of
one-upsmanship
yours.
on that.
1, 2, 4, 3.
But we had box 55, so.
Oh, wow, box 55, wonderful. Well, we thank you so much. It's a jewel. It is a total jewel
Thank
for
you
our
all.
city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great. Okay, and we are now on to agenda item 11, and I see Mr. Buckley there coming on up. He's been sitting patiently since whatever time we started. This is item 11, 240435 CLC1, discussion for possible action regarding approval of a grant request for $32,559.42 by Old Time Reunion for the costs associated with the 2024 Old Time Reunion event that documents the cultural and historical heritage of the city of Las Vegas and authorizing the president to execute the grant agreement as approved by the city attorney in all wards. And hello there, would you please both, and who's first? Go.
First of all, it's been lovely hearing about the city during our wait. I saw Mr. Domenii last week at an event. In fact, the senator was there, and he told the story how they were going to build the Riviera Hotel, so his grandfather thought it was a good idea to buy the land next door, and they built the La Concha. So I've learned a lot about the La Concha today.
And you have to announce yourself for our clerk.
Oh, forgive me. My name is Kevin Buckley. I live in Las Vegas. I am the chairman of the Las Vegas Old Timers. It was started in 1997 by a bunch of old timers. It originally started at the Las Vegas Country Club, but then moved to the Stardust Hotel because the Boyd Group has always been very generous. When they took down the Stardust, we moved to the New Orleans, or the Orleans, which is another Boyd property, and they've taken care of us. And this year, we're happy to say that we have now moved to the Suncoast, which is in the city of Las Vegas and is also Boyd property, and they're extending the same generosity. It's an event that, and it's interesting to see it evolve because the old timers, we've lost a lot of old timers, so we do our best to capture as many pictures as we can and post them so people can see the same pictures, a lot of which I saw during the presentation of the Mob Museum. It starts at 4:30 in the afternoon, but our old timers get there early. You're usually home at 7 o'clock. It was originally self-funded by donations by Ken Johan. There's a long list of them. There's 17 members, the Perlman brothers, and Sam Boyd. I'd like to introduce, if I may, Julie Gilday-Schaefer, please, if you'd introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Julie Gilday-Schaefer.
And so we have an application for a grant for approximately $32,000 for our budget, and we're here to answer any questions that you may have. We're probably expecting 400 people. That's what.
To 450?
450. It's $80 a ticket. It includes a complete dinner with 2 drinks. We originally used to have the bands and the music, but it really got in the way of people hearing. So now we use off-site music if we need it, and most of the times we don't need it. This is an election season. There is no campaigning during the event. And my job as chairman is to simply be a person to go to if anybody has any questions with regards to anything. Or if, for example, someone is, when Shelley Berkeley was running, she's quite a campaigner. She was always passing out brochures everywhere. And I kindly had to ask her not to do it tonight, because this is all about the old timers.
Wonderful.
And so if I can answer any questions, I'd love to.
Okay, and how about you, Ms. Gilday Schaefer, please?
Well, hello, everyone, and I happen to be a native Las Vegan, so there you go. Not only do I live here, I'm a native, and I've had the opportunity to watch this community grow, and I was voluntold by my mother to participate in the Old Time Reunion back when Thalia Dondero was running the event, and have stayed attached to it since she has passed on, and received the torch to share it with Kevin. So we're excited to be at the Suncoast this year, and it was a great opportunity to honor one of our sponsors, Boyd Gaming, and to also honor your request to be within the city of Las Vegas.
Thank you very much. I remember your mom very well. Played tennis with her, among other things. Questions, comments? Yes, Commissioner Stoddall.
You've been sitting through all this, and you know what my filter is, and my silo in that. And that is the city of Las Vegas.
Correct. We've heard that. We've actually been on that point we've dealt with the issue casually 3 years ago. Okay. It was clearer, and it became very clear last year.
So, having attended a few of these, in the past, the focus seemed to be more on entertainment, and the Las Vegas Strip seemed to have a very dominant sense. And in many ways, it does have a dominant sense in the Valley, but our filter is the first 100 years of Las Vegas and the Centennial Commission. So with that, then the question becomes, 27 years, we're preserving the history. How are we preserving the history? Where is the archives? Who has access to the archives? For example, the documentaries that the city is producing, is any of that material available for these documentaries? So what are you preserving?
Sure.
Other than the picture of me and my wife, Kay.
Well, that's a wonderful photo to have, of course, but we have all the years that we've been employing a photographer, so we have photos of the attendees that are participating, and we also have been shooting video at the event with interviews. And so all of that is available on our website, and it's also available directly to the City of Las Vegas if you would like to take possession of the footage.
Well, I mean, I saw the video on the website, but it's kind of like the where you sign in and you go and you sit down, and then wide shots of the.
No, these are
some other
interviews.
video?
What I'm talking about are the interviews where people like Larry Ruvo, for example, we pull people into a side room and they talk about their memories of Las Vegas or what their experiences were as a younger person, or some of the stories. A lot of times people like to tell us some of their more colorful stories about being in Las Vegas, but it's all first-person memories of their time here in the city.
Another thing is that it seems like everything presented so far has been a product. And our product are people, is people gathering, get together and talking about the old stories. So I guess and that was really the original idea of the old timers, was for people who were old timers to tell stories and talk about what's going on. And one of the reasons our costs have increased is to increase the technology of that type of recording. But it's hard to measure a human factor, unlike a documentary or unlike a building.
Well,
I mean, that makes
you
us
also have the
unusual.
skill of a mind reader, and that is going over the past grants. They've been $5,000 and $5,000 and $5,000, and then $10,000, and now we're up to $32,000. Plus the ticket prices are certainly more than they were. Now they're at $80, 85. And I know there's inflation because I read the Review Journal and I know who's the cause of the inflation.
Well, as I said originally, it was totally sponsored based upon probably 17 people or individuals or companies.
Okay.
That source of funding has completely disappeared. When Thea left, I took over as chairman, and when there was a deficiency, then I would go out and find individuals to get that money.
Okay.
It was before the creation of this Centennial Commission. When we found out about the Centennial Commission, we, in the way that we think about the budget, because no one really makes there's no one making money here, we didn't even know about the ability to ask for a grant. We asked for a grant, and then I think, it might have been you, Senator, that said, or Bob, Commissioner Kaufman said, next time ask us for more money, and we never thought about that. So then someone said, ask us for more money. We filled out the application. We expanded the services and the type of event, and since that time, the funding of the Centennial Commission has been a big part of our source of funds.
Well, those are my questions, and I'll let the senator and Bob Kaufman explain their request for more money.
Now, but remember, Commissioner Stoltenberg, remember that's based on my memory.
Oh.
I'm generous to a fault, Kevin, but I did not ask for more money.
Okay. Who was it?
Your Honor.
Commissioner, please.
Thank you. If it's my turn, I would just say that I am curious. The ticket price has gone up a lot. And so the question is how close is Boyd pricing this at their cost?
Well, they've been I can answer that.
Yeah.
They've been incredibly generous with us every single year because, as you all know, whether you read the Review Journal or not, that the cost of delivering a meal has gone up substantially. Not only is it dinner, it's also 2 drinks and the cost of the space. And so what they do is they give us a highly discounted price as their sponsorship. And then once we get to the final price or final quantity of heads that we are serving, they will arbitrarily pick a number based on their formula that they then discount further for us to help us try to cover our costs. Because the cost of the ticket does not cover the cost of the event. The cost of the ticket absolutely covers the cost of the dinner, but there are, as you can see from our breakdown, there are a lot of costs in order to deliver the event.
And speaking of money, so at the end of this event, we'll probably have in our checking account, let's say, starting this year, we had $8,000. So that $8,000 we use to fund the cost of this event, which we start around 4 months ago. So if we didn't have this funding here, then we would have and we're already committed to this funding. But we understand it's the commission's prerogative to decide that. If this commission decided that things have to be in a different way, then we'll complete this, and then we'll find that deficiency. It's just that as we've grown, so has our relationship with this Centennial Commission.
Okay, any other comments, questions? How about Mr. Brandenburg and Ms. Brown?
No, I think they've explained it pretty well.
And can you tell us what
No
the
question.
entertainment is?
Yes, so I just want to clarify, Kevin mentioned that we backed off of the big name headliner entertainment because our attendees said, we really want to talk to each other. So there were years when Lorraine Hunt Bono sang or maybe
Wayne Newton.
and Clint Holmes, et cetera. And so that kind of entertainment was less appealing to our attendees. So we've gone to smaller acts. Last year, it was a keyboard, somebody playing keyboard and singing throughout the evening, which was at a lower volume, which was more amenable to people with hearing devices. And so we're trying to provide Las Vegas-style entertainment and also understand that our audience now has some different needs than they did 27 years ago.
One last thing, John.
Okay, and then you've got ads, 2 Review Journal ads.
Yes.
At $3,500, and campaign creative is what?
So our marketing partner is Jeff Kaiser. And Kaiser. And one of the things that he does is he puts together a plan for us at the start of each year that includes everything from our print ads, our printed tickets, the graphics, the website updates, social media, printing and the save the date cards, which we had to reprint this year by moving. So anyway, that's what his services are.
Okay.
Your Honor, one.
Yes, please.
Thank you. It's been a couple of years now since I attended. It was at the Orleans.
Orleans.
Question I have is, but I don't remember how much display there was of Las Vegas history, artifacts, or at least the kinds of graphics that can, convey stuff. And shouldn't we give you more? Shouldn't you have a whole lot? We've got a lot there. Alone. Or at least put it there during the event.
That would be incredible. Absolutely. What you would experience if you'd been in the last several years is that there is a constantly running slideshow on the big screens that are historical photos of Las Vegas from early construction days and Las Vegas High School and things like that. So there are and all the old hotels and motels and things like that. So anything to augment would be tremendous.
Well, what I was thinking about is exactly that, only maybe even having some artifacts that are protected but should be visible. And I think, hey, got a lot of room there for tables to have stuff. And so ask us, maybe we've got some things that we would like to put there.
That would be wonderful. We could work through a safe way of getting there, displaying them, and getting them back to you. So they would provide, definitely, in many, many years ago, they had things like old yearbooks, which people now don't bring anymore because they walk away.
Well, you're talking history, serious, you're getting into serious money now. We just want to make sure we do what we think we ought to be doing with the money.
Sure. No, if there's items that the Centennial Commission can provide that we can display, that would be wonderful.
And do you have the logo of the Centennial Commission on a program? Or?
We have a lifted logo. We would like a first generation quality logo to work with. So I'm sure that we can get that through
It's
the
the
office.
lead, it's the lead logo on the sponsors.
Okay, and is there any takeaway? Do your guests have a gift, a shirt, or
Are you going to have it
glass?
next year?
Pardon?
They just want to know if you're going to have it next year.
But we don't have any takeaways. There was a time when the LVCVA would donate
Right, but they
blinky
charge
pins.
now. Yeah.
The blinky pins that say, "Welcome to Fabulous
Right.
Las Vegas." But-
Okay.
How about on the slideshow, is there a logo, Centennial Commission? Right.
Excuse me, your mic, please.
I'm
Oh,
sorry?
you didn't have your mic on.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay. There's a motion and a second to approve the request of 32,559 with 42 cents. Amazing.
Down to the
Couldn't
penny.
round it off. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? And Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Okay. Go forth and multiply.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we hope that you'll join us at the Suncoast this year.
Thank you. Thank you
It's
for
a
doing
smaller
this.
property, so it's a lot cozier, actually.
You're getting
See you
so
later.
big.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you
And
very
Thank you
much.
for staying so long. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 12. This is 240477, CLC1 report by Community Development Department regarding the City of Las Vegas website.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Seth Floyd for the record. So We, over the last few meetings, in fact, I think we gave our last report on this in July, we've been updating you on our progress with the Centennial Commission's landing page on the city's website and how we are building that out. So my technological expertise is limited, so we've now gone beyond what I can explain. So I've brought someone far more knowledgeable than me. Anita Niederman on our team has been instrumental in putting all this together. So she is going to give you a quick update on where we are with the website, what's been updated and added to date, and then we'll close that part. We'll answer any questions, of course, and then close that part, and then we have a companion item for what our next step in building out the website might look like.
Good afternoon, Nina Niederman for the record. So yes, as you all aware, we had the grants landing page, and most of you commissioners know that it was the spreadsheet that would populate when you clicked on grants. We have since updated that to be more interactive and user-friendly. So as of now, when you click on the grants page, as you all can see, when you fall onto the page, the landing page now lists every year, and from that year you can click on, let's go to 2023, and it will give any user who lands on this page the complete total of all the grants, and then it will list every single grant that was awarded within that year. Now, in order to consolidate all the information so that the user would not need to make multiple clicks, like go underneath agendas and meetings, we went ahead and linked each agenda and minutes onto this page. So that way the user wouldn't have to go all throughout our website to try to find all this information.
Awesome.
Now, when they do click on it, it will give them all the information that they need. They will open up the PDF, and then they can read the description of the grant that was awarded, the votes, and then the minutes that follows that. And we do plan on continuing updating the website, as Seth said, that with our partner agenda item. We do want to put pictures and keep it moving and growing to make sure that it is as accessible and the information is as consolidated as possible.
Well, I must tell you, everybody just thinks the world of you and your work. So I said, so how's she doing? Accolades is all I can tell you. And it's no wonder.
Thank you.
This is really impressive.
Just a quick question as to how, if I wanted to search, for example, what the Las Vegas reunion, what the Centennial Commission has funded over the years, is there a search, a place I could search that, or do I need to go into each year?
So we do have our main search icon up here. Now, I don't know if it will allow them to automatically pull up the information just off of this website, but they can do Control F, and that would help them just go straight to anything that has the words, old timers or anything.
I mean, in one sense, that's already available if I go to the city's agenda site and say, give me Centennial, and then pick the search word, and it will give me every time the word reunion has popped up for the Centennial. But I was just wondering if there's a particular search engine for just the Centennial
So that
site.
is a good point. I can bring that up, and we can see if we can build that into this landing page, but that is a good point.
This is really a significant move forward, and it seemed to be kind of taking my mouse, which I don't have, and moving it around.
Yeah, you could go back all the way to 2005. Now, not all the information is available all the way back to 2005, so unfortunately, it will just, hold on one moment, let me refresh the page. We just updated it. It doesn't give them the agenda or minutes because that information is just not accessible right now.
If you notice, the old timers got $560 in 2005.
There it is, look at that.
It is $560.
Yeah, I went scoping all throughout all of our old records and our archived records. I found what I could back earlier years, but there's limited information.
Somewhere, though, in the city system are those minutes of they're somewhere in there.
Yeah, so we're working on getting access to minutes from prior to, and I forget what year it is, 2000.
I think it's 12.
Yeah, I can't remember the year. It's a different way that we have archived those, and so we will be able to get access to those. We just haven't gotten all of those yet.
To date, right now.
To date,
It's to 2011.
What other elements do you see adding to the Centennial site?
So we were gonna have the summaries put on there, but because the summaries were within the agendas, it would just be duplicate information, so that would be stay as is. Right now, we're hoping that the contract that we're hoping to get would allow for them to get summaries and pictures put on here, so it makes it a little bit more visually appealing than right now.
Good idea.
So if I wanted to, earlier this discussion about grants and applications and contracts, if I wanted to find the application to get a grant.
So that would just be on the main landing page for the Centennial website. They're able to get
So
that grant.
it's on the main of the city of Las Vegas or the Centennial site?
Centennial.
Right there.
Okay. Oh, you're just saying city of Las Vegas.
But Commissioner, do you mean the general grant information, or if you were looking for information about a particular grant that was awarded?
I wanted to ask for a grant. I
Oh,
wanted
I
to
see.
apply
Okay,
for one.
yep.
Yeah, that would just on your main landing page. They can be able to find to apply
Okay,
for a
and the
grant.
historic timeline, that's on the city's site, correct?
No, that's on the Centennial website. So this is the Centennial grant, this
Right
is your
here.
Centennial website, and it lists, you know, the historical timeline, your grants awarded, all of that information.
I'm sorry, if you could go back up to this, and the historic timeline is different than the one that's on the city's website.
So yes, we have two different, well, we have the historic timeline and what was the other time? The
West Side,
West
there's-
Side timeline, yes,
Right.
two different timelines.
And that's, if you hit this one, what will you get?
This should be the historic,
And that's the one that's on the city's
yeah.
website.
But there's a link here, a quick link, so that way
Gotcha,
they're
just a link
easy.
over to that. Perfect, great,
That way
thank
it's
you.
easy link, they don't have to go searching for anything.
And we could add the West Side timeline there too as well, if we wanted
That
to?
should be on there.
I saw it on something that you flicked through.
If it's not, I can see about getting that timeline
On
added
one of
as
your
well.
first ones with the list on the left, it did say West Side. But I can't remember which board it was.
But it'd each be great if it was up there with the other ones.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, this is a report, but we might as well stay right there as we go forward, and unless there are any comments, questions here, I think we're good. We go on to item number 13, 240478 CLC1, discussion for possible action regarding approval of funding in the amount of $75,000 to hire a consultant to complete the website updates. And this is in reference to all wards, and you are, in fact.
Thank you, Diane Seabrant, for the record. So just carrying on from where Nina left us, so on each one of those, I don't know what you call this, query string of each one of those, you click on them, now you get the minutes and the agenda. The next step is to add the information that we have spoken about in the past, and that includes the grant summaries with an image, and then the timeline as well. So I did talk to the gentleman who runs Vintage Las Vegas, Mr. Jeffrey Carlson, about this project. He has a website, he has a Twitter account, and he has a Instagram, I believe it's called. And he's probably one of the few people that could do this project because it is so specific to understanding the history of Las Vegas. And Mr. Carlson, after I spoke with him, he did submit a proposal as far as how to help us with the website on the rest of these updates that the commission is asking for. And because he has the knowledge, he has already the Vintage Las Vegas website. I mean, he's already contributed to our movies of the decades. He is, we all know his work. If you don't follow Vintage Las Vegas, it's actually a really fun Twitter handle to follow because it does have a lot of these old images. And the cost for doing this would be $75,000. It'll be about a year-long project, and that is a very reasonable rate for somebody to do this type of website content. The way the project will work is Mr. Carlson will produce, first we'll work on the grant summaries, and then those will come to the commission so that everybody can read it, give any of their input that they wish. And then, once everything is done for the grant summaries as well as the timeline, then that is the content we give to communications, and then communications puts it on their website. So we haven't sussed out, like, do we do everything first and give it as a dump to communications? Do we just add it as we get each grant summary? And that is something that we can discuss. And happy to take questions unless Seth had anything else to add.
Seth Floyd for the record. Yeah, I did want to add, Diane kind of went through the why of this pretty quickly. Why are we looking to have a consultant help us with this part? And the reason is because what we've done to date and what Nina walked through, those were things that we, in coordination with communications and our team, were able to do that with existing staff and with the resources that we have. What we realized pretty early on, and I think we may have previewed this in a past update, is that the really heavy lift comes when you start digging into the minutia of each grant agreement and each grant, and trying to put that in a website appropriate chunk for the public to view, and so they can get some information about it, because not everybody wants to click on the minutes and read through all the minutes, and they're very lengthy, and you're not going to get a lot of clicks that way. Also digging through our files and finding pictures. So that's where we realized we could use a little bit of assistance, especially if we want to get this done in a reasonable time frame. And so hence the reason for building out this request. So that's sort of the why are we here, why are we asking for this assistance.
Any comments, questions on Mr. Carlson? We're all good. Commissioner Mowbray, please.
My understanding is he'll be consulting to using our data and our copyrighted materials. So there's no issue with that, right?
That is correct. There is no issue with that, no.
Okay, thank you.
Because he's doing it for us.
Right.
Thank you, and Commissioner Stodahl.
The grant request is divided into two parts. For the $40,000, that's the update of the $75,000. $34,000 is for the Centennial grant resources, and $40,000 is for what the city's website is calling the timeline. First of all, his proposal does not include the West Side timeline, and that is in significant need of adjustment.
Right, we did not ask him to include that in the proposal.
I think that somehow we need to get that cleaned up some way. It is significantly, there's opportunities for improvement, significant opportunities for improvement.
So are you suggesting they include that and come back?
I somehow, if the city's information office is not going to unilaterally go and clean it up and get somebody to do it, and if the way we're moving forward is through a Centennial grant to get the timeline cleaned up, then I think we should do the same thing for the West Side history timeline. So I don't know what would the proper process would be to, whether, Mr. Carlson has worked for several years, and his credibility of information and the way he does his research is significantly above par. I mean, it is something that people count on. It's one resource. We should always get a couple of resources, but he knows what he is doing. So that was interesting that he was selected, but I think we need to do the West Side timeline. Somehow it's got to be added to that.
And that could be brought back in November, separate from this?
Is that what-
Yeah, Mayor, I think there's probably two ways we could do that. We can either bring back a new package that includes that in November with everything, or do it separately. And I could see doing it both ways, because the West Side timeline is a little different in scope. Not that the work would be different, but this focus is on the Centennial funded projects, and obviously the West Side timeline is more than just Centennial funded projects. And so you could divide it into two and have them separate scopes, or we could certainly work that into one scope.
Now you really got me confused. The timeline is going to be just the Centennial Commission timeline, or, so
No,
let me
sorry.
ask you the question this way.
Yeah.
one of the challenges in working with the Office of Information for the past year in trying to get these timelines cleaned up is I don't know what the filter is. What's the purpose of the timeline? For
Yeah.
example, it didn't even include the fact that when we became a city, what's the filter that says this is now going to be added to the timeline?
So there are, and actually, there might actually be 3 timelines here, so maybe we should talk about each one of those. So there is the timeline that Nina showed, that is the grant timeline. So there is a timeline that has information about each of these Centennial grants. That's what we did first, okay? And then there is, yeah, maybe Nina can drive.
Jeff, can I get the website back? Thank you.
Then there is the history timeline, the overall history timeline, which is linked on the landing page. That's this one. This is where the summaries would go. So if you can see on your screen here, I think this is where the summaries would go. Let me let Diane take it over from there, because there are several different timelines we're talking about.
So are you talking about this timeline that we're looking at right now? Is that up on your screen, the timeline on the city's website?
Yes.
Okay, so this is, there is not a separate timeline for the Centennial Commission other than breaking it down into years of when grants were awarded.
Not my question. That's not my question.
So yes, this is the only timeline,
Great.
this one, and the West Side
What's the filter
timeline.
for this timeline?
What do you mean the filter? So this was produced by Communications and I think when we started
What
this?
is Mr. Carlson going to use to determine which things he's going to recommend that go on this timeline? What's the filter? What's the mission? What's the focus of the timeline?
Well, the focus is going to be important dates that occurred in the history of Las Vegas, such as 1905, 1911. I know that there's a lot of gaps in here, so he's going to give us the full history of things that occurred and dates that we do not have here.
If I could see that in writing specifically, so as the next generation would know, and it is not Las Vegas, it's the city of Las Vegas, because if you go on there now, it's the mixture of the Las Vegas Strip and the city of Las Vegas. There's references there about what's going on and it's just an odd stuff that's in there. And
Well,
so-
that's why we'll clean it up and get rid of anything that's not in the city.
Yeah, there's been significant progress made when they added the links to the documentaries. That was a great jump forward. But now we should have at least recognized when we became a city, our first mayor, all those important things for the growth of the city, which I think that it looks like in reading his proposal, he's got that covered. The other filter is what we can pay for is for the first 100 years and he's going off in other directions. So I think that the focus needs to be the 1905 to 2005. That's our initial, and then who's going to be responsible for building it after 05, the timeline, because there's been some historic things that have occurred in the last 20 years. Whose job is that, and what filter are they going to use to add stuff?
As far as after 2005, we would have to talk to Communications about that.
But I'm also, I guess maybe I'm a little confused. So my understanding, the Centennial Commission's charge under state law is to commemorate the history of the city of Las Vegas. It's not, the Historic Preservation Commission has a timeline listed in our code. Generally speaking, it's 40 years, or we sort of presume things are eligible if they're 40 years old or older. Centennial Commission doesn't have that kind of limiting language. So I think if Centennial wanted to fund ongoing updates to the historic timeline as history is continuing
I'm
to.
referring to the NRS, and that's what the ruling we got from the city attorney's office at the last meeting. The grants need to be for the first 100 years.
That's correct, but Seth is not talking about grants from this commission necessarily. He's talking about other resources that aren't funded by the Centennial Commission, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I think I was just wrong, Val, but thank you for trying to save me there. So if the Centennial is going to take the position that it can't fund anything after 2005, we could certainly, once it's built out, it's easier to build from there. So we could start identifying what those are and just add to the timeline that's already been built.
I'm not taking a position, I'm following the NRS and what the city attorney said, but if they want, the Office of Communication established this timeline a long time ago. It's been part of what they are doing. I think there's been opportunities for improvement. The question is, after Mr. Carlson does his work, then it needs to be freshened up and needs to be looked at each year. The Office of Communication needs to add stuff every year because there's going to be something historic. So I don't know what the process is after 2005. Not that I don't care about it. My focus is 1905 to 2005. And there's plenty of historic things that could be added. We could go on for 100 different items, but
Yeah,
Carlson will do that.
I think we'll have to evaluate, once it's fully built out and vetted and we have the first scope done, we can evaluate how we continue to add to it. Like, for example, obviously the Centennial Commission timeline, we will continue, it's built out now, but we'll have to add to that every year or every quarter, whatever interval we're going to add. And we can certainly do that with this. Now, I think what may be more difficult is determining, as it gets more recent, what events count as historic events, because sometimes those don't reveal themselves until years later.
I think you still need, before we give it to Jeffrey Carlson, this is the filter you need to look for as far as historic. This is what should be on the timeline, these elements. Otherwise, he's going to kind of go off on his own, which is a little bit of this is not within our jurisdiction.
So why don't we, since there's also a request to add the West Side timeline to the scope, why don't we come back in November with the addition of the West Side scope? We'll address some of the questions that you had, and then we can bring that back next time.
Is
Well,
that going
and
to be?
I think your problem here, as I read it on item 13, is hiring a consultant to complete, the words "to complete," because it sounds from what the commissioner is saying or suggesting, that keeps growing and filling in. So it's not really a completion for the 75,000. And maybe we could, at this point, to get current or whatever the word would be, for 75,000 for this phase, and then you're adding in the West Side, so when you come back in November, there possibly would be an addendum to that to add more funding.
We could do that. I think the completion, we may need that in there because he will, whatever scope of work we're asking him to do, he will complete that portion. It could be
The
something.
portion,
yeah,
well,
right,
it's not
right.
completing the
Yeah.
website, it's completing the portion. So if it could be specific to whatever that timeline is that we're at, that we could give him this and get going now, then you come back in November for the next portion that will include the West Side and whatever else.
We can do that.
So at least unless he's got so much money, he doesn't need the 75,000.
I think everybody needs money.
Okay.
No, he is, Mr. Carlson is, this would be a significant move forward for Mr. Carlson and the time that he has spent
So how
over the
about moving this?
I'd like to,
For this portion,
if I make a motion to approve this portion, will that still work for what we're trying to do?
Well,
Do we need
if
to
you're
adjust?
going, are you going to approve it with amended language? Because if that's the case, we will have to add extra funding if we're asking him to do the West Side timeline as well.
Well,
I
I
would
thought the
think
West Side
that's all.
timeline could be a separate.
Yeah, we could do that as a separate contract,
Yeah, we can do
yes.
that.
yeah, because that's more work. And he's obviously come up with this number because this is what he plans to do.
Or he may say, that's not in my area, by the way.
Could
I
be.
will, I'll have to have that conversation
Okay,
with
so let's get this thing going.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second by the governor, senator, commissioner, whatever you
Attorney
choose to
General.
be, newly married, whatever. Okay, there's a motion, please vote. An anniversary, I hope you're going out for dinner. Okay, there's a motion and a second on agenda item 13. Please vote and orally.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, that carries, so, but then you will come back for the next, including the
Yes.
west side. All right, that carries. And we will now move, thank you very much, on to agenda item 14, report by the Executive Director of the Commission of the Las Vegas Centennial regarding completed projects and announcements relative to the Commission for the Las Vegas Centennial.
Thank you, Seabrant, for the record, and since I'm standing up here, I'll just continue to stand up here. All the Centennial projects, we do have either in progress or preparing to be in progress. The duck shed was delayed to February. The West Side Design Guidebook, that is ongoing. They've just recently submitted the written outline. The rodeo is November 8th through the 9th of this year. The 1970s documentary is in progress. And they are starting to do the work on the 1980s for the research on that part of it. The parade, El Dorado Days Parade, is on May 10th of next year, and they're preparing for that one. Home and History is also in May of 2025, and then the most recently approved grant was the UNLV Sports Oral History that was just ratified, and they will be starting working on that now.
Why was Duck delayed, do we know?
I'd have to go back and look at my emails. There was a conflict with something else that was happening. I'd have to go back to my emails to read them.
For this coming February?
Yes.
Yeah. And it was delayed to February?
Yes, delayed to February, I'm sorry. Yes, it's not going to be until February of 2025.
And UNLV Sports Oral History will be about Nevada Southern and the Las Vegas High School facility, because that's where it was.
Well, the Sports Oral History project, that's Clay T. White's project, that she will be doing collecting the oral histories from sports figures throughout within the timeline of, I don't think we'll have anybody from 1905 doing an interview, but anybody as far back as we can reach until 2005.
In the city?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so any questions, comments here? Thank you for the report. Wonderful. We'll move on to item 15, discussion regarding topics for future agenda items. Comments made during this portion of the agenda by individual members shall refer solely to the proposals for future agenda items, and any discussion shall be limited to whether or not such proposed items are within the purview of the commission, or whether and/or whether such proposed items should be placed on a future agenda. No discussion regarding the substance of any proposal shall occur and no action taken. Ms. Brown and Mr. Brandenburg, do you have any items that you would like put on the agenda?
No, not with the exception of everything else.
Thank you, Mr. Brandenburg.
And I do not at this time either. No,
Thank you. Yes, we have Commissioner Coppin here.
Well, just a thought here, that we're at the end of the meeting, and this won't take long, just as we've discussed certain things, there seems to be a cloudiness of language and meaning, and I don't know whether we're interpreting correctly all the time, the statute, or any regulations, but I wanted to make sure that if there's any conflict or any possibility to strengthen our positions, now's the time, because the city is putting together its legislative package for the next session, and if we need some minor amendments, I should think the legal eagles here should tell us if we need to ask for something and just add it to the package or slip it in, a comma here, a period there. That's my thought, just to remember the time of the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any suggestions here on the right?
One last, and just to echo what the former commissioner said, if there's any legislative changes for the proposed by the city for the Centennial Commission, I would hope that there would be a courtesy that the Centennial Commission would be informed of any potential changes. Secondly, I thought it was going to be on the agenda today, so I passed out some topics for potential for being funded. Would like to see that on the next agenda, and would also encourage any Centennial Commission members, if there's other topics that they think that we should do documentaries on, I would hope that we would be able to have an action item to approve those, and then go for whatever legal.
Yeah.
Work for hire. Work for hire.
Don't push an alarm button here. You be careful.
That, on the next
Okay.
agenda, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And this is our final citizen participation. So public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No subject may be acted upon by the commission unless subjects on the agenda and scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, there's nobody here except Nina. God bless you. Hearing and seeing none, what I'm going to do right now is thank you all for taking the time to be here. Thank you, Ms. Brown, Mr. Brandenburg. Thank you all for being here. Our next meeting is November 25th, which is the Monday of Thanksgiving. And at this point then, and thank you anybody who's working as our clerk and anybody else who's pretending to work but sleeping. This commission is adjourned. Thank you all.
Okay. All right. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor.